The following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange. Is that a beer?
Last one. Yeah.
Half beer ever. Oh, that's cool. It's like disappearing. Half the beer is like.
Oh yeah, it's green. It's a sour. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, that's weird.
That's so weird. It's going through me. That's weird. Welcome everybody back to the show. I am your host, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, the Raptilian. And who am I joined by?
And this episode is about Tom having his last beer ever.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, it's crazy. So obviously you are. Do you have a rap name for this episode?
No,
A-Rod.
No, what was it? Because the group guys I used to hang around, we used to listen to a lot of hip hop. And there was some joke came up one day, like, and everybody was trying to come up with like hip hop names, and of course, I'd always get the shit into this, like the guys would like make up something.
Yeah.
Something similar to like what you would do to me, I would imagine. And they were like, "Oh yeah, you can be a little penis." I'm like, yeah, great.
That's hilarious. I think A-Ron is pretty good. You could technically be Horror Boy. Like that could be a rap name. You know what I mean? Technically.
I'm gonna try it.
So this will be interesting. I just released a new album called I didn't even know what I was gonna call it. I just had no idea, and I was like, Rebel. I just sure. But this is the album cover art of me. I angry with my noticer eyes, because that's what the red eyes are interpreting. And then I'm surrounded by a bunch of lunatic liberals was the idea. All like, shut up, don't say that, that's racist, or all this shit, you know.
Why don't they all have like blue and multicolored hair and stuff?
I know, I should have tried to do it. It's like, you cannot, because I used ChatGPT, obviously, like, why wouldn't you? Because it can.
You know, the one thing that annoys me about that is as close as all the time it gets to like the image I want, I end up having these weird arguments with ChatGPT all the time where I'm like, I've literally told you 10 times now, do not do that. And then it goes like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I will never do that again. Like the logo on your hat in that image.
Yeah.
They always do that where it's like, no, I want you to spell Strange Brew Podcast. And it goes, yes, certainly. And then it just like brings up some random stuff. I'm like, why do you keep doing it?
I literally had so many different images, and I was like, I was like, do this. And it was like, I cannot do that. That breaks my community guidelines. When I said like hysterical liberal people or something like that. And yeah, it's pretty bad for that. I tried to be like, can you make me Kanye West in an SS uniform? And it was like, cannot do that. And I was like,
it's really funny.
I was trying to get to do Elon Musk in the SS uniform for that clip of us talking about him on the Rottenberg Cannibal episode, but I wouldn't do it. It's like, I can't do that.
On the topic of that, so like I'll always do this, like I'll do research for an episode, and then at the very end I'll go, right, ChatGPT, get me fucking whatever. And then I'll like try and compare it to like some of the stuff I found and see if there's anything extra. And I done it with this. And I just typed in hip hop conspiracies, right? And it brought up some stuff. And then in the next one, I was like, yes, give me all the wild, crazy hip hop conspiracy theories. Include anything about Jews, Illuminati, and Satan.
That's what I want.
Right? And then it comes back and it goes, thank you for the clear request. I'm happy to dive deeper into the wild and fringe conspiracy theories, but I want to set a quick boundary with you first. It is important for you to note that some of these theories include anti-Semitic, satanic panic, or occult accusations. I'll share them for educational and cultural context only.
Did you
But it is-
find some backup stuff for the Jewish supremacy shit? Because like
But it-
we'll get to it, but everyone knows who Jerry Heller was, right? He was Jewish, and then we'll get it. The reason I bring that up because this started off as I heard about this conspiracy a long time ago, which we'll end it on of the letter sent by a record executive, as far as I know, or someone that worked in the industry. But I wanted to touch on different conspiracies first, and for everybody out there, right? Like I do really love hip hop. I grew up on it. You know, it changed my life to some extent. I always loved music and loved making music. I was in a metal band when I was fairly young. I didn't really go anywhere, but I was like the screamer. I like to play drums. You know, I've always loved music, but I was obsessed with like Eminem when I was like, 7 or 8. That was just because it was like it was hot at the time, late 90s. And I remember we went and saw 8 Mile for my 10th birthday party.
It's so funny, when you see those videos on like TikTok, and it's like I can't remember the guy's name, but you've probably seen these where he wears this. I think it's a wig that's like an emo fringe, and it's like he's like it's 2002, and your mom tells you can't like go to that metal gig or whatever, and he's like in his room and he's going like, and it's slow motion and all this stuff, and like punching the wall and like punching pillows and shit, and like. I distinctly remember every time I felt like shit or what I thought felt like shit as a kid, I put on like something like Stan and I'd be like, yeah, man, that's my life. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm so depressed.
Press record.
Oh, no.
I know. Okay, press record. Just do it. Hurry up. Ready?
Yep. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, now clap it in.
3, 2, 1.
Why do we forget? All right, well, I'll splice in the beginning audio with this.
So dumb.
So it will match up so people will hear the beginning of the show. This is our little secret. Yes, we clap in so we can sync the audio so it sounds good. And because Billy's been on recently, we haven't able to do that. I have to take the stereo mix, and Billy's mic is fucking terrible. So I hope everyone's enjoyed that, so.
Billy kind of sounds like if I was to talk with this for the whole time.
Yes.
I'll just continue to talk like this the rest of the episode.
You could just scream, it's all about the Jews.
It's all about the Jews. Oh, yeah.
I want to get the Roadcaster so bad so I can do that.
You're going to be so annoying with that. I can't wait. But on the end of that little thing that ChatGPT said, it was like, it's important to approach these critically. Many of the things I'm about to tell you are based on misinformation, paranoia, or prejudice, especially those involving Jews or satanic imagery.
Of course.
These narratives often reflect broader societal fears or scapegoating and shouldn't be taken at face value.
You know what's interesting? I saw a post, I laughed because it's true. If Kanye's song said, "Hail Satan," nobody would have a problem with it except for Christians. But because he invoked the image in most people's minds of like the most evil man on earth, then everyone gets offended by him. I was blaring that song at work today just for fun.
He's such an odd character. I'd love to sit in a room with him and be like, "Come on, talk to me."
I've seen videos of him going live with Sneeko and stuff, and it's like interesting. He doesn't seem that crazy, but who knows?
It's weird, isn't it? And then like he puts on this. Who was it? I seen him when he was doing some live streaming thing, and like whatever apartment or whatever room they were gonna do a live streaming. He comes in with some weird like mask over his face.
Oh, did you see like the Klan hood one? He's wearing the black Klan outfit.
And you can't see any of his body. I think his whole body is covered. Like he had like gloves on and everything. And he's like, right, I need to like redesign the room. So he's like he like moves the coffee table around and he's putting like plants on the coffee table. Then he's like in the corner, like reorganizing a bookshelf. And like you can tell the dude
is psycho, dude.
Yeah, he's sitting on a couch and like the dude was like, oh yeah, sure. He was like, yeah, I have to get everything like exactly how I see it in my mind before I can like start to do anything.
Yeah, because he's got like he's definitely a psychopath in some regard, but also he's very smart. I believe that like when it comes to music, at least he's kind of a genius, right? And he believed he was like Jesus and stuff, which all that stuff gets to your head. And then I think he even believes that his mother was sacrificed to some extent that we talked about in like kind of the Hollywood episode. I was never a huge fan of his. I like that when he became more controversial, it made me laugh because like realistically, why didn't you love to see a podcast of him and the mustache man, the Big H, like talking together, because like he was also a genius to some extent, and probably just. I know there's people that think he's a good guy, but I do think he was paid opposition, and he's a psychopath also. Yeah, and it would just be interesting to hear them, like, if they could do it in English, like, talk to each other. Because, like, that's what he wants more than anything, it seems like, to talk to him. Because I saw him even reading, he's like, he said that, and that's happened. Like, he's like, all like, look at what he said, look at the speech.
I personally think he would be fascinating to talk to.
I think both of them would be, right? It just, like, why? Why? Oh, we know why.
Imagine if somehow you could, like, I know it's physically impossible, but like to be able to do a podcast and have each of those on either side of you, you would literally break the internet.
I know. Or like AI, like it's like a hologram. You let AI just like create a hologram Hitler. Hashtag hologram Hitler is hilarious.
Now the question is, if you were the host of that episode, right, where both of those are on the show, are you wearing a clan hood, or are you wearing an SS, or a mixture of both?
I think the SS. I think the SS. It's just a cool outfit, man. Hugo Boss made that shit. It looks gnarly. It's got like the skulls on it. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying the Nazis or Hitler was a good guy. It's just funny to joke about because so many people either get mad or they're like, yeah, and they start like raising their hands up and start roaming, saluting.
I wanted to dress up as that.
I just think it'd be so
one
funny.
Halloween, and like everybody that I was going to the party with was like,
don't do it.
I'm not doing it. And like
oh dude,
maybe I'm just retarded, but like I was literally like, what's the issue? I don't see what's the problem.
See what I talk about is if you can maybe try to bring this up. I'm afraid it's gonna if you can go to YouTube and then click in the worst costume and then put the H's name. There's a really funny video and I want to show you, but like we just like joking about this stuff because it is so controversial and I just think it's funny. Like people are so sensitive about everything. Like I'm a avid hip hop fan. I know a fair amount about the history. I've always liked the music and we'll get into why I think it's been subverted and why like it for a long time it's been like that and how it's essentially taken hold of the idea of quote unquote black culture and morphed it into something kind of dangerous for themselves more than anyone else. And obviously there's been white quote unquote white hip hop artists since literally conception of hip hop. But yes, it literally blacks did create it. It was it originated from like the South Bronx, right? It was around like the 1970s, and it was pretty much from like the African American and Afro Caribbean and Latin communities. And it was like obviously the poor communities within the Bronx that kind of just started creating this culture around music, and it was like dance, art, and clothing. Like it wasn't just rap or hip hop or whatever, right? It was like we'll get into it, but it's like the arcing. See if I can. It's not gonna bring it up. It's like a skit. No, it's like a skit. That is that one. Yeah, go up. Up. I think it's that one. Halloween costume. Yeah, that's it. Yes, click that. Okay, this is hilarious.
Hey! Hi Charles, how you doing, mate? Straight through that, yeah?
Cheers, man.
See you in a bit, yeah?
ISIS, what are you doing? It's Halloween.
That's so inappropriate. So inappropriate.
Oh, it's just a little fun little costume. Why, what's wrong with it?
It's so offensive.
Yes, tell. How is it?
Oh God. That's not right.
It's just so disrespectful.
What's disrespectful?
He's Jimmy Savile.
I'm not Jimmy.
Mate, you insensitive man.
There's Kanye.
Come on, guys, it's just ridiculous.
That'd be brilliant. Be this
You
costume.
need to grow up, mate.
Just wait.
Just go. Just get out.
It's just.
Go.
Is that fact? That's so funny. I remember seeing that for like I think it was one of the Halloween specials that we've done. So this will probably be like the last like live stream we do for maybe over a month. So all the people that watch on video, there'll still be videos coming. But make sure to go back and check out like all the hilarious stuff we've done. Like there's a lot of Tons of good video episodes of me and Billy being in the same room in the studio when we were doing it, when he was coming over every Friday. There's tons of good stuff on this. But like, essentially hip hop started like from the South Bronx in the 70s, emerging from different cultures and Afro-Caribbean, African-American, and the Latin communities. And obviously it was more than just like people rapping. It was like the clothing and everything else, which is actually kind of still is to some extent. But you have like DJ Kool Herc. He like maybe was one of the first pioneers of this genre and extending it obviously into instrumentals and breaks on turntables, leading to the rise of rapping and breakdancing. Hip-hop's early roots were in the block parties and community gatherings where DJ played soul and funk music, and MCs, now known as rappers, would rhyme over these beats. The four pillars of hip-hop, which a lot of the youth don't know this too, a lot of kids growing up, it was DJing, rapping, breakdancing, and graffiti art. Graffiti art's kind of been pushed to the side, same with breakdancing, but there was these four pillars of like that was the culture. And so I have a cousin, and he's a Christian. He was a Christian hip hop artist back in the day. And the group did fairly well. One of his friends is fairly famous, called Manifest. But in the Christian world, but he grew up like doing this in Toronto and doing freestyles, and like he's my cousin that his mom's from Jamaica, right? But he's like, you wouldn't tell by looking at him. But he would do this back in the day. They called themselves the Round Table of, the Round Table, I think. And, but he talks about how breakdancing was huge. Like he used to do it. He even showed me the one day of him trying to breakdance, and it's like he still can do it somewhat because we used to do these like family parties, and we'd rent out like a kind of area and like with a bar and stuff like that. And he would show me that he could do it, and it was kind of interesting because he's like, that's what it was like founded on, was like, people were doing graffiti art, breakdancing on the cardboard in the streets, and then like obviously MCing and DJing. And he would go like freestyle battles. So all this stuff's been like ingrained into me, and that's why I think it's funny when people like call me whatever racist or a bigot or all that stuff. I have people call me the racist rapper, stuff like that online, because I point out things that are obviously true. Like pointing out the truth is not racist. That's a stupid thing. And the thing is, this idea like, well, who invented it? And it's, of course it was the African American community, the black community, obviously, right? But they didn't invent poetry, and they didn't invent reading a poem over a beat. That's not true. That's, they shifted it and made it into its own kind of thing. But really, all culture, especially music wise, has been shifted in so many different ways. So many different people have done it. You know what I mean? And like everyone wants to classify the best rapper in the world as Eminem, and he's white. I'm not a huge fan of Eminem anymore though.
Neither am I. I'll be honest. Not a lot in a long time. Actually, I saw him perform in 2009 or 10.
Oh, that's sweet. I didn't know that.
Since then, I've just been like, wow, this is fucking, because that was when for me personally anyway, that was when I felt like he started to really go downhill. I was like, wow, he's getting really like, yeah, and just doing all that weird shit, like all them songs, fucking, I don't know what it's called, like Love the Way You Lie or whatever it's called, and all that shit. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't, fuck off.
First
like,
off, I'm gonna tell you how really is.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any of that. I want to hear him talking about fucking shitting on his, fucking dad's chest or whatever, and like punching the head off people and taking drugs. And, like, that's what I want to hear. Came from.
He changed, and the thing is, like, people joke how that's a conspiracy that he died in a car accident and they cloned him and all that stuff. And there's a guy named Bryson Gray. I like. He's a pretty controversial dude, and he does a song called Like Eminem because he's been banned. He's a black dude, and he's been banned off of like Spotify. And he's actually a Christian and doesn't swear in his hip hop, but calls out a lot of the stuff that's going on with the satanic agenda and the gay stuff in hip hop too, like, which we'll get to at some point in this episode. He was like, oh, I'm gonna do a song like Eminem, and he talks about like all transgender people need to be under arrest, and it goes off, and it's been taken off Spotify and stuff like that. But he was like, Eminem used to gay bash in his songs, and he's like, I'm not that bad. I just wanted to pour into Iran or Baghdad. Like, so, like, he's like, he does, and then he doesn't get banned, but literally Eminem has a song about killing his wife and everything that he would do to do it, and those are still on, like, music platforms, so it's interesting what they choose to attack, and he literally talks about, like assaulting his own mother.
Do you know what's mad as well? Like, as a kid, like, I'd be, like, sitting in the back of the car, like, bopping to that, like, and like my parents,
Degeneracy, that is what it is.
my
Like, you gotta
parents
admit.
really didn't really bat an eyelid. It was like, oh, look, it's fine. Like, this is all fake. It's not real. It's just like music, and it's just like the
Yes.
movies. He's like
But
making
it's
all this shit up
subverting
or
you.
whatever. And I'm like, and it seemed, I don't want to say harmless, but that's how it seemed, quite harmless. And like we would laugh at shit like that. So it's weird to see the dynamic, like you said, between like what they choose to allow and then don't allow.
Well, I was like, I was subverted, I would say, by Necro and stuff. And I was in a Necro when I was like 13, 14. And that's pretty brutal stuff to listen to, especially about like the womanizing aspect to it. And, there's a lot of good, decent Jewish rappers, to say at the least. But I will say I got an argument with him because he's definitely like a Zionist. And I was trying to see if he'd come on the show, but I watched a couple of things of him recently, and I'm not a fan anymore at all. I still enjoy his music for sometimes, kind of like just like pump up music, but he likes this whole label of being the biggest asshole in hip hop, and he literally is. And I've seen him on interviews recently, and even people in the comments were like, "What the fuck?" Because like his mom's like knocking on the bedroom door, being like, "Are you done yet?" So and I've always loved Ill Bill, and they have beef and stuff like that. So, but listening to that stuff that young, it definitely subverted and changed my mind. And then I wanted to be like that, like, and emulate that type of thing. And that's why we'll get into like the negative aspects of it. That's why when I've done music, because I've done a lot of music at this point, it's all on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Music. It's out there. I've done a lot of music. I have one of my I released all the music from 2010 to 2015 that I've done. There's even songs that they wouldn't let me release because they're off like more popular beats or whatever. But I've been doing this a long time, and what I found was that hip hop gave you the ability to convey a message in a short amount of time. So after I listened to Eminem, and then I got my emo phase, right? And I used to listen to Eminem, Dr. Dre, like the mainstream stuff. And then obviously 12 set in, and my hair was black, and I was like in a metal band being a screamer, and then, doing all that stuff, really like cut off gloves, like all of it, bracelets. I loved music. So I would literally it would encapsulate like everything that I was in that moment. And then I remember we had this buddy Joey, and he was our only gangster friend. And he would literally wear like baggy ass pants, huge shirts. He had long hair though, so it was interesting. He'd wear like the caps and all that stuff. And we were all like emo and into metal and stuff. And he was our only kind of gangster friend. And he would like steal his older brother, which was my brother's age, CDs. So I remember we were all smoking weed in like we called it the shed. It was literally a shed, and we would just use it to smoke weed in. And we're like maybe 13 or 14. And Joey would bring over the weed that he got from his brother, and that's what's crazy. But back in the day, it would be like a bag that is like, like a half core, like 3.5 grams. And there would be like, we're all like kids. Once we got used to smoking it, we would be, maybe 5, 6 of us, and we'd smoke like the whole bag in until we're done. We would just like this, like a session. We would just keep going, smoking it all. And then I will never forget the time that he put on his brother's CD, and it had like little Troy on it, which wanna be a baller. Shot collar, 20-inch rims on the Impala. I don't know if you've ever heard that song, but that's, and like some of these, yeah. And then when I heard Dance with the Devil by Immortal Technique is when my whole view of hip hop shifted, because I was more into metal, and I was like, no, I was more like, because that metal phase, I was more like fuck hip hop, right? And like, especially the mainstream thing, because we were all like anti-government and didn't like the mainstream media, even at that young of an age. So when I heard, Dance with the Devil, right, by Immortal Technique, it changed my view, because it's all about the consequences of gang life. Spoiler alert, if you haven't heard it, it's a very famous song for its content of what it's about. It's the idea that, and this still happens to this day, there's a lot of gang initiations. You have to do something horrible. You have to prove that you're part of the gang. And a kid wants to be this big baller and sell coke and be part of the gang. And then they make him essentially assault his own mother. And she dies, and they pull off the bag over her head. And he realizes he's staring into the eyes of his own mother. And that changed me, because we're all sitting around high as shit being like, whoa, man, that's heavy. So like that changed of like what hip hop could be. And then not long after that, I was like maybe 14, got arrested for doing just dumb shit. And then I wrote a very shitty rhyme. I just got out of jail, waiting for bail or whatever, right? And even though I wasn't, it was just like I was just writing to vent, and it sounded terrible. A lot of my stuff. I think this first song I ever did, was a diss against this guy that started dating my my other girl. His last name rhymed with
It's just like Gloucester, like man.
well, like he was dating a chick that I used to date, that I also like left for another girl, and like so. But when he dated her, I got all upset.
The
about
classic, yeah, the classic.
it.
I've also done that.
It was like his last name rhymed with mouse. His name was Jeff, so I would just be like, yo, you're like a little mouse. I'll come into your house. You know, like very dumb, basic rhymes. And then everyone, like I slowly got better. I remember when I got jumped for calling this kid a goof. Not to him, but to his girlfriend. I was like, that guy's a goof. And I was like 17. And I got jumped by, I've told the story before on the show, but like 5 guys that were hiding behind trees. And I remember when they're like, stop rapping too, and they walked away. And then I was like, I just kept going. And now realistic, my Trudeau song has had like thousands upon thousands of streams. You know, that's what built up the Spotify. But like I've always wanted to use music like Vinny Paz did for most of his career. Now he's turned to very like gangster style. But I've always wanted to use music like a moral technique, like some of these hip hop artists that were like exposing the truth and talking about obscure things like aliens or conspiracies or the Illuminati, right? And that's in a very short form, brief history of why I've always like loved hip hop. And why it's kind of ingrained into me. Because I love music. My grandfather was a jazz singer. So it's like in my blood.
It's strange as well, because from time to time, I've like sat back. Like, I don't know, I might be listening to something and somebody will say something like, oh, you know, how do you listen to that shit? Or why do you listen to that? And it makes me kind of, not that it would ever change my mind, like on what I like or don't like. But sometimes I'll sit down and I don't know if it's like a weird, like, mongoloid brain I have, but I'll be like, why do I like that? Or and I'm like, wait, it's literally just a guy or a group of guys or whatever talking essentially over a beat. And like, why am I so like attracted to that style of music? What is it about it that makes me?
Well, and it's like catchy. That's what I try to do with my new album. It is, I don't know if you've listened to it, but you should check it out. It's very different from some of the other stuff I've done. And I only did like a 7 song, and it was 6 originally, but I have a song that I produced that it's like one of the saddest shit I've ever recorded. And it's interesting because it's literally called Sad Song. And I acted like I was crying throughout the song, like broken down mentally and stuff like that. And I did it on purpose, because even when I've done like the Alien Races song, alien, not racist, but races, like they're different. I'm like, I'm a gray alien, and I make my voice high pitched, and I'm a reptilian, it's all raspy. So like I've tried to do like different things, but even with this one, I was like, I want it to be more like, you know, I've done all these very like, you know, controversial songs, like my Extremist song and all the other stuff I've kind of done. So I was like, you know what? I want this to be more like upbeat, not upbeat, but like more fast paced, more make it get stuck in your head and be catchy, right? So that's kind of what I went for. But I know you've also really been into hip hop, and then obviously it began in the Bronx, and then you have like, it kind of like got bigger after Rapper's Delight, and then it's funny, they obviously they realize the popularity of this, you know, they push up people like Vanilla Ice. But like it started off mostly like it wasn't this like gang culture thing that it ended up turning into. There's Run DMC, Beastie Boys. Like it started off as something completely different of kind of people in different communities. There was also white Hispanics, a lot of different people that were especially around the Bronx. There was a lot of Hispanics and blacks that were kind of starting off this hip hop scene. But like look at all these dudes are like Hispanic, like, and they're just like, yeah, kill it, dude. And there's like the different like wear of like kind of baggy bell pants and like the sweater and stuff.
The dude looks like he's doing fucking Chris Benoit diving headbutts.
Oh yeah, man, and it's crazy. They just do that on cement. A lot of times it's cardboard, but it is pretty. It was a different time, right? And a lot of people embraced it. Like this was probably from I think the mid '90s, early '90s, and everyone kind of embraced. Like
I love as well the fashion or lack thereof. I love that.
It's kind of a careless, a lot of times like the polos, it was kind of a careless kind of attitude of like whatever, right? And just and baggy and stuff like that. And it is interesting where it came from. And you know, I've always like been a fan of Ill Bill and stuff like that. He's up there, and he has that song White N-Word. and he's like never does it live because he doesn't want a bunch of kids shouting the N-word at him. But he talks about like hip hop brought cultures together, which is true to some extent. And there was like a lot of like, you know, they were poor, of course. Yeah, no, they're Jewish and stuff, and I understand that. But they were born in like Glenwood projects, right? Doing, you know, that would be tough as a white kid, especially. And he said there's beef all the time, especially because he was white. I've always enjoyed hip hop, and I will get to the thing of why it does subvert the culture, and I get why, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like what it has became, because eventually, at some point, eventually became what it is today, where it's about subverting the culture, booty shaking, rock steady crew. Now that's old school, man. That is old
Dude,
school.
I was just thinking there when you mentioned Ill Bill. I haven't listened to him in so long.
Oh yeah, man. I loved like that's the stuff, and people were like just start listening to this. Like I have a kid at work and he's listening to like Gangstar. He looks like a little Eminem, literally. He's like maybe 17, 18.
What was that? Because you mentioned fucking what's his name as well.
Necro, Moral Technique.
Yeah,
Vinnie Paz,
but no, but they were in a group together.
Army of the Pharaohs.
No,
Yeah.
it was Ill Bill,
Oh, nonfiction.
Necro,
Nonfiction, but Necro just made beats.
Mr. Hyde, and somebody else.
Oh, Circle of Tyrants. Circle
yes.
of Tyrants.
Wow, dude, that gave me chills there. I don't know why. I haven't like heard that mentioned in so long.
Dude, this stuff was really important to me, right? At one point, like they have the green CD, and it's like the nonfiction, DVD where it goes through their history, right? And like they talk about the Circle of Tyrants, and I remember watching it on a laptop at like my girlfriend's house, and I was like 17, and it was just the vibe that I got. I was 17, I was just starting to get kind of good at like rapping, and just like that feeling and of like. How much I love that culture, especially like, you know, I identify with the people that I look like. A lot of people do that. So I identified and loved the white rappers. Like I always looked for that. I loved Immoral Technique. He was up there. But like when I heard about Vinnie Paz, I thought Vinnie Paz and Ill Bill were black when I first heard Heavy Metal Kings when I was like 15 or something. And then I realized they're white guys. And I was like, and then especially like even like Necro, I was like, I could do this. You know, I'm not from the hood, and I'm not exclaiming that I am or any of that stuff, or I'm from some sort of ghetto. I've had my own struggles, but that's what hip hop started off as, was this idea of like a struggle and a community and stuff like that. That's really what it started as, is like if you listen to people like Too Short, it was kind of like fun hip hop rhymes, hanging out with your homies. But yeah, like the kids at work, they're just getting like the one kid's getting into Gangstar and Nas, and he's like 17. I'm like, oh, I was way past you at that age. That's where, when we were like 14 is when we really got into Eazy-E and NWA. We were young, and I remember me and my buddy would walk down the street singing Give Me That Nut. We'd try to see if we could do the whole song from Eazy-E. Now back to the fucking basics. You got yours, and I don't want you to waste it. I can't do an Eazy-E voice, but
I got a shirt. I was in Dublin like a week ago or a week and a half ago.
yeah.
And I was randomly in a H&M.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can find this.
I smoked weed before this episode. I'm like, I'm not really drinking, but I was like, is that a good idea? And then I'm like, took off the glasses, and I'm like, it's so bright in here.
Oh, well.
It's just it just seems like a different time for what it turned into, of like, it was almost brought a lot of people together. And then when we get to like the record executives and who they were, that pushed more of the subversive culture, and then split everything up to like gang rivalry and what we'll get to very soon.
So I'm just like walking around.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm like flicking through t-shirts, and I'm like, I spot it, but I like flick by it, and I'm like, yeah, it's all that like usual shit, like Foo Fighters and all that fucking Nirvana and all that shit, like that everywhere sells. And I'm like, and I was like, wait, there's no way I saw what I think I saw. And I loop back around and I look, and I'm like, wait a second.
That's kind of cool.
I love the back of it.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, I was like, I know, it just felt like such a throwback. Like, and I would never be like really out in the wild and like buy a shirt like that. But I was like, I kind of want all that's like even you mentioning something like Circle Tyrants. Like, I want to go back to like.
Dude, when I first see, that's what it was when I first discovered that music. You know, everyone knew of Eminem and Dr. Dre and like NWA. That's where kind of like the foundations of my journey was. And then once I discovered like underground hip hop, I'm like, like when YouTube was just starting to blow up, because I would go to my buddy's house and they'd have like, they just discovered Big L and Bone Thugs and Harmony. So we would all share that love for music, and I would come on. I remember the first time we heard Shook Ones, and we're like 14, and it was like, it was like, whoa, like listen to the beat,
Oh, yeah.
everything just broke down so perfectly. The music video where it just looked cool, right? And that's that's this idea of like I wanted to kind of get into somewhat of just a little bit of the like anti kind of white agenda, because I do think that there is one, and I think I can clearly see it everywhere I go. And this is an interesting thing that I read. Oh, where is it? Oh no, did it not? Okay, I'll have to hopefully I sent it to myself. I'll find it. I know what it is. But like just that feeling of discovering that music
Anything
always
like
blew my mind.
yeah, it's across the board. Like, I mean,
Oh, here you go. I found it.
I can
So-
remember watching movies for the first time and
Yeah.
getting those feelings, and maybe adapting or adopting some sort of personality, being like, oh, that character was so cool,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
fucking thing was so cool, and music even more so. Where like you said, from the music videos to, and the other thing people have to realize, if you're in any way younger than both of us, and like by no means are we in any way old really, but it's hard to have context if you're like even a few years younger than us about
Yeah.
like the difference in, we didn't get YouTube. Like, I couldn't just go on and like constantly search my favorite music videos and stuff. You were getting this
that's
from
it.
like TV or like
Yeah.
weird
Much
fucking
loud,
like
much music.
videotapes and shit.
MTV, yeah, and a lot of that's where it came from. That's where we were seeing it. It was totally a different vibe and then when you discover the internet and you start discovering more of these like offshoots, like watching like BET. It's funny because someone brought up, but if you have white entertainment TV, that wouldn't be allowed. But I wanted to read this because this is a good quote, because like I'm gonna bring attention to this because we're at less than 8% of the population, and there is this subversive culture. So the identity of white children is attacked in effort to push them into other non-white cultures. When you tell a white child that having white pride is wrong, you essentially rob them of their identity. So they search for a new identity that's not white. And the most influential thing. Jesus. When you tell a white child having white pride is wrong, you essentially rob them of their identity. So they search for another identity. And one of the most influential things, then they see black culture. So they latch onto that. Or they may have liberal parents who push them into transgenderism. All of it is part of a Jewish anti-white pride. So the promotion of the degenerate black culture to transgenderism itself, we need to bring back white pride to save America. And I'm not saying like everyone should have pride in who they are. In all regard, but that actually is part of it, is subverting the culture, right? And like you see like places like some places in Florida or like Miami especially, and just people shaking their asses in the middle of the street for like TikTok videos. Like all that stuff was meant to subvert us. Like that KGB defector Yezin Uranov or whatever his name is. I said it earlier and I got high now. I can't remember. But Yasmin Uranov, something like that. Not Uranov, that sounds hilarious. Someone would know in the chat on Rumble. But he talked about this, how it's like mostly subverting the culture. And I played his video on one of the episodes that we've done. I think like the protocol episode. And he would mention these things about this Yuri Bezmenov. I was like, just try there. I knew Uncle Semi would be in there somewhere.
Some sort of Manov in it.
Yeah, and I was like, something sounds Russian, and he would talk about like them subverting the culture and like using it to like have normal Americans attack Americans, and they don't even know how brainwashed they are. And to some extent, that's true, right? Like everyone thought it was really cool, this gangster rap and like wanting to be hard. And we used to watch like when YouTube first started blowing up, especially when we were like maybe 15, 16. I remember being in my buddy's basement, we watched Hood to Hood, and he would just be filming like the ghettos around America. And we used to think that was cool. And it just makes me think now that I'm older and seeing what this culture has devolved into, I think that it negatively impacted especially the black community more than any other community, because they thought it was cool to be a gangster and to sell drugs because the music they were listening to was telling them that. And it wasn't always like that. It was more like, yo, I'm hanging out with me and my friends, we're back at it again. It was very like simple, like it was, especially if you listen to like Too Short and stuff like that.
Do you know the other thing that's a little bit infuriating?
Everyone had a Tupac poster in the room, I feel like.
I still have one. the thing that's infuriating about that as well. So like, and this is going to be a really weird analogy to kind of compare it to, but like, say if you look at something like professional wrestling, right?
Yeah.
There's still a lot of like adult men, women, whatever, that like that shit, but understand that, you know, it's just entertainment. It's just like a character or whatever. Like, I don't think there's very many people on planet Earth right now that's like, oh my god, the Undertaker was really like a fucking came from a grave and like all this shit. So I don't think anybody believes that anymore. And the thing with rap, I think, and hip hop, it started to change. And then, okay, I'm not saying there was lots of people who were living that lifestyle for real and like being, uh, um, who were being, you know, who were living those lifestyles that they were making music about. And yeah, pretty much. But like, then you had, say, someone like that you just had in that image there, like somebody like
That
6ix9ine
rat.
who's trying to like portray a thing of like, you know, of like drugs and violence and
Yeah, he's a
gangs and shit.
snitch.
Yeah, and then like maybe they're not really living that lifestyle. And I've heard like time and time again different artists or whatever that make music about certain things and all this shit that they're supposedly doing, only to find out that they're not even doing that. So it's like,
Yeah,
I'm
look,
not
can you
saying
look up Dr. Dre for me?
I'm not
Look up
saying it's better to be like
Dr.
like
Dre Eazy-E cover where he's wearing his all of his stuff.
oh weird, I can't type anything.
Weird. I remember seeing the clip of Ice-T saying 50 Cent was the last real mainstream gangster from the culture. Yeah, because 50 Cent did over-exaggerate some of the stuff, because I heard he got shot like 3 times. And then
Did
he's
you
like,
see
I got
the
shot
thing,
9 times. He got shot at 9 times.
It was on Vlad TV. Well, like it was Whack 100. He was talking about they were going to set up 50, like back in the day when they all had beef. And he was like, we got word he was going to be in whatever place it was. So he was like, we got like 15, 16 guys together, and we rock up to whatever club he's going to be at. And then instantly we walk in the door and we realize, this is not going to work out in our favor. The dude had like 8 or 10 Navy SEALs, like all like fully armed, like body armor, everything, helmets and shit, all with him. And they were like, that dude was like, he seemed to reckon that he like really did live the life and he would be prepared to like have people shot and shit. But like, again, like, you don't know, is it all part of just like
it is part of the persona,
a marketing thing, like to be like, oh,
it is. There's a lot of that is part of the persona. A lot of it. If you want to bring up that Dr. Dre, like Dr. Dre tried to act hard, like he wasn't even from Compton. That's why I always love that when Eazy-E, you know, real motherfucking G's, because Eazy-E did sell drugs. Like, he probably got shot at. He probably shot at people. He was one of the only people at the beginning that was actually like real. And there's Jam Master Jay and stuff like. He got shot, I think, too. There was a lot of like tumultuous relationships that were birthed because of hip hop, with gang rivals, and, you know, they say something about themselves that, you know, they'd scroll their name on a wall and then somebody X's out that name and then they go over to their neighborhood, and it started a lot of that, like, those like kind of jungle warfare feuds within like.
What did you want me to search?
Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, cover. I think you'll find it. It's when he looks like, I forgot to bring it up. But, you know, it's just, you see this, like KRS-One, man, Rakim, all of these like fundamental staples of what hip hop was. And, you know, a lot of them were rapping about where they came from, jungle warfare. That's what it was, though. It was like essentially like hiding behind buildings. That's hilarious. I didn't even realize I said that, but, where's that? Yeah, there. Click on that little stethoscope when he was in his. It was like jungle warfare though. Like they hide behind buildings, scoping each other. Yeah.
This one.
Yes, that's the one where he's like, you're wearing lipstick and eyeliner, and that was like the back of his album cover. After like Dr. Dre like tried to diss him and stuff like that. And me and Billy talked about it. For all those that don't know, they've never heard the audio episode, me and Billy did do Eazy-E and the conspiracy theories. And it's funny because at that time I wasn't really aware of this stuff, but in the article.
I like that.
Yeah.
Obituary.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's
The way he
hilarious.
has it spelled up in the top.
Yeah, I used to have that album. I lost. Look at that real motherfucking G. I lost a lot of my albums. It's sad. I went to a house party one day, and it was with we were like 15. It was a bunch of older dudes, and we got kicked out. Fighting started, and I lost like my whole booklet of CDs. It's sad.
I love that. It's like you remember the Dexter wiggle.
Yeah, because Dr. Dre was kind of a bitch, and he definitely sold himself out to to Jews and stuff. We'll get to that, but like it's so funny because when me and Billy were talking about like the death of Eazy-E and the conspiracy theories surrounding it. In the article I was reading, it brought up this idea where it's like, well, these conspiracy theories might seem anti-Semitic, and it was talking about like Jerry Heller and like the setup and how there was influential people that wanted the death of Eazy-E, and then you have Suge Knight saying like, oh yeah, like we went on Jimmy Kimmel after years and years after Eazy-E was dead, and he was like, yeah, you don't go shoot somebody up nowadays, you just stick a needle in their neck like some Eazy-E shit. He said that on Jimmy Kimmel. And then you're like, oh, obviously he murdered Eazy-E because Eazy-E got AIDS, but then his kids and wife didn't have it. And like, it's just an interesting, weird conspiracy. And he died very rapidly. It wasn't, and they had medicine back then, not what they have today, but they did have, people could live off of these pharmaceutical drugs, much like the transgender agenda. But you know what I mean? So he literally said that, and it's like, why did he say that? Because he's literally Freudian slip.
Is a spooky character.
Oh, he is. We can do a whole episode about him.
Yeah, he's a spooky guy, man.
Holding Vanilla Ice over like the balcony is crazy. It's like
he's a
white motherfucker.
Like, the amount of stories that like have been out there surrounding him or involving his name in some way is quite fucking spooky.
That he ran over one of his like friends with his car. As far as I know, he's like a good friend.
Which is just wild, though, to be like, it's one thing to be reckless, right, and have money and get other people to do shit, but it's also even crazier to be reckless, get other people to do shit, but also get involved in it yourself.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously we have the P. Diddy stuff. I've heard some
Which
wild
is just
things.
Really, really heating up lately.
Yo, dude, I heard things about his maid and how they found like all this weird stuff in the garbage, like a burnt picture of a chick that was missing, and then like
what was the thing I seen some TikTok yesterday or somewhere going, P. Diddy did what with the mac and cheese?
Oh my God. I just feel like it's a lot of it is for show. It might be like theater for people, but supposedly his maid came out and said some stuff she found in the trash, like just weird paraphernalia probably. And then he said like a picture of a missing girl. It's crazy.
He's a weird motherfucker though. He's a weird dude. That audio, is it supposed to be him and Meek Mill or whatever?
Oh, when he slaps his cheeks together. Oh yeah.
Dude,
we played that. For all people that don't know,
yeah.
Go check out our Diddy episode because that is.
If that's like an actual thing though, like every time I hear that on like a TikTok video or whatever, my skin just like. Ugh.
Dude, we called that stuff out and talked about it for like almost like probably 3 hours or something, way before when it just started like coming out. Like this gangster and this Al Capone, dress proper, polite to women, loves his mother, will actually kill you, and then it's like D-bag. It's just some like
pretty much.
And they all like, you know, these gang rivalries, killing each other over like cred and stuff like that. Like you have all these, it you know, it seemed cool on the outside to people that weren't involved with it. But like for everybody out there, a lot of these people were not doing any gangster shit. They were just rapping about it because the record labels were telling them to. And then you had real life violence out in the world because of their influence over people.
It's really dumb as well because there's a lot of like good artists out there who've been lost through like just dumb shit that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm like, was that all worth dying for? Really? Like you're kind of going.
Yeah, like I have an episode about Big L that we'll get into, and he died because of mistaken identity.
Literally just that image you pulled up, like the like all of those dead, and you're there going like it, like. You know,
yeah, Proof got shot up. Like that messed up Eminem, dude. Like he got shot up in the middle, like just in the front of a nightclub or whatever. Big Pun was 600 pounds when he died. 600 pounds. And the fact that he could like in the middle of little did he know that he did diddly or like, and he's like, and you could hear him in like, especially that that one, you can hear him breathing like, and when he's like rapping, and how like big of an inhale he had to take, and it's like such a and he could rap pretty fast. Nate Dogg, and then Big L, but ODB always was one of my favorites because he was just like buck wild. He didn't give a shit, dude, and he died of alcoholism. He had 13 kids.
Crazy
he left.
Look as well. You could just tell. I was like, I don't think this is all like this. You don't seem like a character. You seem like you're psychotic.
No, he is. He was crazy as hell, dude. That's why they liked him. And like he did. There's that one. I used to watch this stuff all the time. You know, when I was young and YouTube first kind of popped off. Even if you can maybe see if we can bring it up quick, but like when he's drunk freestyling, it's like he's like just messed up, rambling on. It's actually pretty funny.
This is hilarious. The first picture when you type his name into Google, the first picture that comes up is fucking hilarious.
That's when he was almost dead. That was like, yeah, his teeth were all mucked
Oh,
up.
you choose that photo.
Yeah, classic. See if you can just like look up drunk freestyle. A lot of this stuff has to do with what we're talking about. Like I knew we'd get into some kind of rants about this because it was such a heavy influence. You know, about it. The clip of ODB and Method Man talking about who runs everything, and Method Man sitting there looking like a bitch. Did ODB mention the Jews? Because that would be actually very funny. Because like for everyone that doesn't know what we're going to get into, some of the conspiracy aspect of it, and all of the record labels, almost all of them were controlled and owned by Jewish people who were pushing this subversive culture onto the black communities to like get people to gang fight, and then these fake gangsters that may have grown up in poverty and went through some stuff, but really like even Biggie Smalls, when people later like when they would talk about his friends in his neighborhood, it was like he was never like that. Like he even when he like was gonna sell crack, I think there's a story where he was gonna sell crack to a pregnant woman and he didn't do it or something like that. Or maybe that's Tupac. I can't remember. One of them there was a guy that he grew up on his block and he was such a nice kid.
Them got fucked in that situation.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have an episode about Tupac faking his death. That'd be interesting.
I don't know which one of these.
I think he said the bankers. I don't recall. Yeah, it'd be funny if he's like, it's the Jew. Oh yeah, that one right there. 3 down.
This one?
It's short. Yeah, it's short. It's just play. It's for fun.
Back in the house of Young TV Rap, my man Old Dirty Bastard in the house, right here. Still part of the Wu-Tang Clan. Ain't nothing changed.
Drunkest and beat, I'm the drunken master style. See, nobody can ever touch me. Nobody can ever feel me. Nobody can ever say that he loves me or she loves me. See, the blessing of this nigga something real.
Hit me with some lyrics, man. Hit me with some lyrics.
See, sometimes when the lyrics gotta come out, make a lady wanna scream and shout. Thoughts being made, handcuffs played, never want other than A's on praying. To the Holy Ghost, Texas, I'm dusting ya. Call me the neighborhood Ghostbuster. Obviously, you know my name by now. Those stupid bodies all through your town. Unique one, I was elected. Tiny cup for the you be infected. I break them down into syllables, fully back. Circle rhymes, unsyllable. Always flex off the implex. To the ladies, bang out sex. And when it comes to the headstrong, and so master,
no more. He can ride all night. He can go all night, yo. Yo, we gotta go to my man video. Shimmy.
He can go all night yammering. Like, I love ODB. He's going somewhat with the beat, but he's just like, I'm gonna, like, he's so messed up.
Dude, just like, yeah, no more. You're so good. We need to stop you.
I know. And how he's like trying to keep him on track. Like, he's just saying shit. Like, because he used to literally like drink like a ton. He was always drunk. And it's just funny to watch some of those old freestyles because he was just like, and then like, he would just like murmur words, right? The birth of the mumble rap. It's just hilarious. I always liked ODB and some of these characters because that's what they kind of were. A lot of times were these characters in the hip hop scene.
I used to have a really cool shirt, and it was a picture of him, and I don't know if it was it him on a driver's license or was it his fucking after he got arrested or something, was like his police report or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Shot and shit. Oh, dude, I don't know where that t-shirt ever went.
13 kids, man.
I wore that t-shirt like that shit was like yellow under the armpits for me wearing it all the time.
I don't know who this guy is, but I just found this funny. Actually, that might be That looks like Ghostface Killer, but I don't know if he's just like younger. But that's probably from a Wu-Tang picture. But then obviously you got like, like this birth of hip hop through like the cops, beating people in the streets and all that stuff, and you had the LA riots, like, and it was trying to bring the black community together, yeah. But I had that album. That's crazy. Drunken Master was so funny, but like and I think it got subverted in many different ways, right? And we'll talk about it. But like even Eve talked about the singer Eve. She was very close with Biggie Smalls. We'll talk about how they created gangster rap to essentially destroy black communities, which it was causing violence, like especially when I eventually want to talk about this, but the Tupac and Biggie feud. Like, that was a huge thing. East Coast versus West Coast. There's literally real gangsters dying over that shit of just, like, a perceived persona. Because when we get into Tupac, I'm going to expose that it's sad, but I think he was kind of gay and fake. And, like, it's, like, once you see him in videos when he's, like, 17, 18, and he's, like, talking like this and very feminine. And then all of a sudden... Yeah, and all of a sudden he's like this, thug life. He wasn't a gangster. I heard, like, all of his people... Yeah, and all the people that were around him said that he was like a nice guy that cared for people, but you would get different versions of him, like the revolutionary Tupac, then you get like the gangster Tupac, and he went to acting school. He was an actor. He was in movies. He was, I think, I always liked Tupac, but
if you didn't know any of that, he was very believable though. I remember he made like a huge impression on me as a kid. From the point of view, and it's really weird.
A lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people used to give me shit though and be like, "Oh, Biggie was better." I don't know why you prefer him. Oh yeah, it's so gay. It's actually
Tupac being fake and gay was a hard pill to swallow, but the videos when he was a teen are gay as fuck. Yeah, it's true.
But like I remember like trying to like adapt that personality and being a super young kid who hadn't a clue. Like I wasn't good at fighting. I wasn't tough. I wasn't anywhere close to even being anything like even a fraction of somebody like that. But in my head, I used to listen to his music and like I'd be like in my room, like dressed like him and all. I'm like, wow, I'm such a fucking.
I know, and that's man, we were losers when we saw 8 Mile at 10, right? I remember like this is the goofiest shit ever. Like we were always creative. We were filming everything. That's where like the Tommy Thompson show came from, is doing like jackass stunts. I was at a camera with me. We started off making stupid skits when we were very young and doing dumb stuff. I always had this creative itch in me, and I went with I think my buddy Ryan and these 2 other chicks with Austin, so I think there's like 4 or 5 of us, and we all dressed up. Ryan had a huge green afro wig, and we dressed up in like costumes and went and saw a rated R movie. I remember when like he fucks Brittany Murphy, another conspiracy theory, and my mom was trying to close all of her eyes. But I remember coming out, and then me and Austin, I remember standing on my dad's workout bench, and we're like, in the music, the moment you want it, you never, like, just like acting like all thug and stuff.
It's like fucking, and like, as I started to get a little bit older, I was like, if I was going to be anyone from something like 8 Mile, I'd be fucking Cheddar Bob.
I know, it's so funny. And some of them came from really like hard communities, man. Yeah, Cheddar Bob shoots himself in the dick with his own gun. So you want to start getting into getting this episode really started and getting into the conspiracies that you found. I sent you an article, but also I would like to hear the ChatGPT ones if it does go into.
Yeah, we can do. Hold on there. Let me just go back. So these are all like super. I'll run through these like super quick because some of these will be potential probably big episodes and stuff later. So.
Isn't this weird? Okay, so like, look at Diddy with his tongue out of his mouth. The other one's fake, but this one's real.
So which one's fake? Rick Ross one is real.
The Rick Ross one is real. The Jay-Z one's definitely fake. But Jay-Z is involved and has implications. We'll maybe eventually talk about that stuff. But like, they would like kiss each other and stuff like that. Like, hip hop got super gay, and like Rick Ross.
Like, I don't know
Rick
if
Ross is a CO, dude. He was a correctional officer. A CO.
Yeah. It's just hilarious when that came out. Weren't him and 50 beefing, and didn't he buy Rick Ross's masters? And he was like, "You dumb fat fuck, and all I own your music now, you dumb fuck." Something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it was something like that. But sure, even that shit, and again, this is going to be like seem really faggy and just sad, but like I was a big fan of Lil Wayne for a time period.
Oh yeah, so was I, man. I was like
And, like,
obsessed for a couple of years.
Yeah, like, and I mean, like, I was fucking balls deep. And then that shit came out about him and Birdman kissing. And like, Birdman's like, oh yeah, but he's like my adopted son. Like, you
I
don't
had the
kiss your
picture.
kids.
Can you bring it up?
And I'm like, why are you kissing your fucking kids on the mouth? But you're an adult.
I don't have. I did add it. Maybe I didn't add it though.
What,
but
Lil Wayne and
yeah,
Birdman?
Birdman kissing, yeah.
I'll pull it up.
Because I remember when that came out, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? Why is Lil Wayne kissing Birdman?"
Dude, it's just like,
And even like, come on, this is some of the old school hip hop. Okay, look in the corner at those dudes wearing like that Rick James type of outfit with like, you know, their shirt off and like looking like some BDSM shit. Like, what is that? Rakim was always in KRS-One, dude. KRS-One has some really good, like, he spoke about this Illuminati and how they were taking control. As soon as he started to understand what was going on, I think that they were like, oh, we can't promote KRS-One anymore. He's a big influence on hip hop. Yeah, look at that. Why like, I remember when that first came out, and that was a long time ago. Full screen that, and then they're just like,
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Can you zoom in? Find one that's like HD.
I don't know.
Okay, find one, then zoom. Because if you see the guy in the background, he's kind of like so weird.
That shit just makes me.
That guy's staring in the background.
Oh yeah, he's like.
Why is that happening? And it's subverted,
See,
right?
that's one of those things where, like, if you're one of those dudes there, even if you're like, oh, gay as shit, you have to be like, oh, so cool. Yeah, I love kissing guys.
So cool, man. That's so crazy.
And he says in that interview right there, I'm not sure where that was, some fucking show anyway. I actually only watched this last night, and he's talking about it, and he basically says that like, that wasn't like a one-off thing. He was like, "Why? I kiss my kids."
Kiss your best friend? I don't kiss. Imagine if I kiss Billy every time he came over. Like, that's the gayest shit ever.
His point was that don't you kiss your kids, and he's like my son, so that's why I kiss him. And he's like, we're in the rap game, so every night I leave, I might never see him again.
Oh my God, that is the gayest shit ever. It's like that Mac Lethal joke where it's like gangsters doing ecstasy at the bar, and Mac Lethal's like, I'd kill for you, bro. Would you kill for me? And they're like, you know, your two bros are on ecstasy. And it's like a sex drug. And then you're like, would you kill for me, man? They're like getting like really close. It's like, that's like some weird shit, dude. And the thing is too, right? Hug your friend. Me and Billy talked about this. We were talking about like the Dalai Lama kissing that kid on the lips. And he's like, if it's family, it's okay. I'm like, you're a grown man. You're going to kiss your mother. And he's like, yeah, man, like on the cheek. And I'm like, on the lips though? And he's like, no, that's kind of weird. He's like, it'd only be weird if you got hard though. He's like, then it becomes really weird. You know, your mom kisses you on the lips.
It just gets really weird for me. Like, I couldn't picture, like, I have a nearly 11-year-old son. I couldn't picture, like, collecting him from school or bringing him to school and being like, now, son, kiss me on the lips.
Yeah, that's weird, man.
I swear to God, dude, I'd go and throw myself off a bridge.
It's like it's a man thing not to do that. And obviously, like Kid Cudi wearing a dress doing the humiliation ritual. I think one of the last real, like, gangster rappers, like actual, like, said and believed what he said was DMX, man. DMX was pretty hardcore, dude, and like he called out the homo thugs and all that shit way before anybody else did. Like, shake my hand. He's like, something like, whatever that line is, of shake my hand like a man or whatever, but I'm not gonna shake your hand because you're like gay. And he was like calling that like whole like degenerate hip hop culture out because he was Christian, right? And he had all these songs about like the Lord and stuff like that, like, and you know. Walk, whatever that Lord might give me a sign or whatever, walk with me, whatever that one song was. But he loved Jesus, right? Pimping ain't easy unless you get it, unless you got it's my strong hand.
Oh, I can't wait for Scary Movie 6 next year.
Oh, I know. It better be good though. Yeah, so let's break down some of these conspiracy theories because I could literally do a whole rant about this for hours.
Yeah, so we'll go through these like super quick. I love that one. That's my favorite image. So Tupac is still alive. So the theory is
no, skip that. We're doing a whole episode about that.
Okay, right. Forget about that one. The Illuminati controls the music industry.
Well, everybody knows that. Yeah, let's keep going.
Theory: rappers like Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye West, and others are part of a secret elite group, the Illuminati, using symbolism and influence to control minds. Symbols: Pyramids, all-seeing eye, horns, secret hand gestures, etc. Status, largely speculative, though many artists have leaned into the imagery, either seriously or ironically.
Yeah, they literally Jay-Z literally throws up the symbol all the time. And it's not like it's on purpose. Like
I don't know
it's
if
like
this is controversial, but I don't like Jay-Z.
I've never liked Jay-Z. It's so
Yeah,
funny. It
never.
always makes me laugh how much we actually do have in common and how there's not many opinions that we don't agree on. It's like
I know, right?
you have the same brain as mine and experience a lot of the same things as me, but you're in another part of the world.
Like, because even something like that, the amount of
Someone's
times
just
I
gonna
would say
clip
to
that shit.
people, "Oh, I don't like Jay-Z," and they're like, "No, man, Jay-Z's like."
I never liked him. I had a buddy that was super into him.
Oh, I
And
just don't get it. And he always struck me, even as like a kid growing up and stuff, he always struck me as like, oh, that'd be like if I tried to be a gangster rapper.
Yeah. And that, like people are like, oh, he's so like, he's got the that Blueprint album. Everyone's like, it's so dope. I literally never liked Jay-Z. The only songs I can name is like "It's a Hard Knock Life" and "99 Problems." I never listened to him, never liked him, and it's just funny. Like it's like I
Remember
knew.
when fucking when Nas went scorched art on him with that song "Ether"?
Oh yeah, that was all. Some of
Dude.
those hip hop disses, dude, were so good.
Yep. He like that is literally scorched art. I wish we could listen to that song on the show because it with the lyrics up because it's fucking unbelievable.
Even like Hit 'Em Up and these kind of beefs, like The Game and 50 Cent. The Game
Oh yeah.
is like he calls out a lot of the stuff that's going on, but also he's kind of gay, man. He shows his dick off all the time.
Yeah,
on
I don't
Instagram.
know
I had to unfollow him because he was just constantly posting like him grabbing his junk and stuff. And I'm like, I follow you because I'm a fan of your music, not because I want to see you like impress the ladies or whatever. Because he used to be a stripper, which is kind of gay. But like his beef with 50 Cent was actually pretty wild because like the disses that the Game did against 50 were actually really good and thought out. And he called him out on like he had his
He
receipts.
had that shit where it was like he had that GU not thing.
Yeah, GU not. Yeah, that's crazy.
I actually went to a music festival in 2009, I think, or 2010. And like there was all these different like huge, I'm talking about like huge artists, all sorts of bands, all sorts of singers and shit like that. But I specifically went to see the Game. And like I spent so much money, spent the entire weekend in the rain, because remember I'm in fucking Ireland, so it's not like this tropical, right? Miserable just to see him. Get there, I get right up to the barrier, like I'm front and center, and I'm like, I can't believe I've managed to make it like right here, and nobody's going to tear me away from this barrier. I'm staying here for the full gig. Some dude walks out like 5 minutes before his set, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's cancelled." No,
Of course.
he's not even in the country. And everyone was like, "What?" So it turns out that he was like doing shows in Spain or something, and he was like, "Oh, I got a bad flu, so I can't fly." And it's hilarious, right? Because after that, I remember going, I will never, ever, ever go see you ever again.
Yeah, I know.
But
But you got a flu. You're supposed to perform. Be a man.
only
you little
recently
bitch.
he was doing a European tour again, right? And he's doing all the old kind of stuff from that time period. And that's all the shit that people want to hear. And I see like it's doing the rounds and it's on TikTok. He's in like Paris and he's in different places and whatever. And he's coming to Dublin. So what happens? The day of the gig, he fucking cancels and reschedules. He's like, yeah, what did he say? I got a flu. My voice is gone. I can't perform.
But and then like he probably like, I made enough money. I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
Like
so,
all
and
those.
I think they go to places, like Paris and Ibiza and all those places, and like, it's like really nice weather and fancy and whatever, and they probably just get fucked up and they're like, why am I even going to bother going
No,
to
100%.
Ireland?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm on vacation now, and a lot of why you're like letting down your fans, and I feel like people like that are pieces of shit. I feel like he's probably a really big piece of shit in life, and he wasn't always that good. I remember listening to his first album, and it's not that great. He got better as he went, but I was a big fan of the Game. Like I admit my faults. I was a big loser. I dressed up like a blood when I was like 15, and I remember like I've told the story before, but like I was emo. My friends laughed at me. I remember when I went to high school and I wore like an entire blood and khaki outfit. And my cousin from Toronto was like, "I would get you killed probably." And I remember all of them laughed their asses off, and I was like, didn't care. I used to wear bandanas. I wore a do-rag.
I was like oblivious.
I didn't care. I was like, whatever. You could all hate me. You know, so we have obviously Jay-Z and the Illuminati. I never cared what people thought about me, as you can tell. Like, it doesn't bother me if someone that I don't know, or even someone personally I know, if you don't like me, that's cool. It doesn't really affect me. I don't have to like. Everyone is so polarized by all the things that are going on. They'll get like literally triggered and cry and freak out over like the smallest little thing, over someone saying like trans rights don't matter, or like, you know what I mean, like anything like that. Anything, you can literally say the sky is blue and there'll be someone out there like, no it's not, it's like turquoise, you know, like some colorblind guys like it's actually red.
I'm just looking here at the lyrics for that Ether diss. I need to bring these up for a second because these are fucking hilarious.
Why does Tupac look so weird in that top picture? I remember like watching Juice for the first time. You know, like that was a good movie because it showed like kind of the black like community and how like, you know, mostly everyone was just kind of chill and trying to survive, and then the one guy's like crazy.
I don't think it showed that top bit.
Yeah. What's up, N-words? Fuck you with your soul like ether. Brace yourself for the main event. You're patiently waiting. Like an AIDS test. What's the result? Oh yeah, it's go crazy. Nas was wild back in the day. There's a couple of, what's that other song that he like goes deep, man?
Oh yeah, look at this on there. That this Gazy and Cockefeller Records wanted beef.
Started cocking my weapon and slowly loading up the ammo to explode it on a camel. That's a weird rhyme. And as soldiers I can handle. That's so funny.
First Biggie's your man, then you got the nerve to say you're better than Big. Dick sucking lips. Yikes. There's another one though.
That's so funny.
Where he's like,
were you abused as a child, scared to smile? They call you ugly. Well, life is hard. Hug me, don't reject me. So funny. I'll whip your ass.
I'll still whip your ass. You're 36 in the karate class, you tie ball hole.
That's right. You trying to get broccoli? Oh, I thought I said broccoli. You trying to get broccoli?
Is he Dame Diddy, Dame Daddy, or Dame Dummy?
Is Dame Diddy, Dame... Yeah, that's hilarious.
Oh, I get it. You Biggie and he's Puffy. Rockefeller died of AIDS. That was the end of his chapter, and that's the guy y'all chose to name your company after.
That's hilarious.
Put it together. I rock hoes, y'all rock fellas.
That's fun. He's literally calling Jay, which is probably true. Isn't that true that he named it after a guy that died of AIDS? Which is like, why did he get that then? Because everyone associated that with the gay community.
Put it together. I rock hoes, y'all rock fellas, and now you're trying to take my spot, fellas. Put you in a dry spot, fellas, in a pine box with 9 shots of my Glock, fellas.
That's sick.
What, you think you get in girls now because of your looks?
Oh man, it's just crazy.
Whiskers like a rat. That he actually went scar starter just from like, look at some of this stuff here towards the end where he's like, Eminem murdered you on your own shit. You're a dick riding faggot. You love the attention.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
Doesn't even care. Oh, that's so funny. Like, and like, look at what Jay-Z looked like to some extent, right? Bring me some more conspiracy theories, my hoe.
Just gonna refer to me as that from now on. Okay, let's see. So we're skipping anything to do with Biggie.
Yeah, what did ChatGPT say about the Jays?
I'm gonna get it now. 1 second. Let me see what else do we have. Gucci Mane was cloned. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh yeah, he came out of jail like a totally different person. Yeah, I remember there was a radio station near me. It's like so gay now. They just play like literally like the same repeated music over and over again. But when it started, it was like promoting hip hop. I remember like, you know, like 11 or midnight, they play like Gucci Mane, as you say, because you say Gucci Mane, people like, it's Mane. You gotta say it like Mane. And I remember the first time, it was funny because when me and my friends watched it, it was like we liked it, but it was almost comical. Like when he's like, keys in the kitchen or whatever that song is, The Kitchen that he does. And like he was just hanging out in his backyard, and we thought it was cool but goofy. Like me and my buddy would make fun of Gucci Mane while we listened to his music. You know, and there's better stuff than others. And I remember my one buddy really liked who was the guy who was beefing with?
Who Gucci Mane was beefing with?
Yeah. Young Jeezy. I was like Akon and Young Jeezy.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, right? I used to love Gucci Mane so much before the jail and stuff when he was like all fat and like scary looking.
Yeah, with the Bart
And,
Simpson chain, and then like that
Yeah.
was Young Jeezy put a hit out on the Bart Simpson chain, and like according, I can't remember because we could cover this, but I thought I remember hearing that like they sent like thugs went after Gucci Mane, and he like flipped the table and shot like them all, and which is so crazy. He like he put out like a $50,000 bond on like his chain, like a hit. And then they went in and he like flipped the table and shot a bunch of them. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. I can't remember. But I remember hearing about that. He would go to jail all the time. Gucci Mane, was, at least from the outside, seemed like someone who was a real thug that didn't really care and had no concept of what the fuck he was doing with his life.
Yeah, like supposedly he was, from all the stuff I had read, he was literally like, probably for worse, but like psychotic, like you said, where he's like, oh, I'm not like, I don't care about like fame or money or shit or what happens or anything. I'm like doing this thing. Remember he got like the ice cream cone tattooed on his face and shit?
Yeah.
Like he's just like, I don't give a fuck. And he was all fat and stuff. It's so good, dude. He had that song Lemonade.
And he looks totally different now.
He's a different person.
It's
crazy.
I think the Jays got him. I'm gonna start being like Owen Benjamin, just call him the Jays. And it's funny because when Owen Benjamin talks about blacks, he calls them the bees. He's like, it looks like a different person. Like that doesn't look like the same guy.
If you do
man.
type in Gucci Mane old pictures, and there's like side by side.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird. Yeah,
look
like
at the one
like
there where he's
voice.
with his like belly, where he's like smoking a joint on the top, like across another two.
Yeah, weird.
No, there's another one there. That one.
Yeah.
Look at that. How is that the same person?
I don't even think it is. I think it's possible that he could have been cloned, man. There was that weird video. I think it was Ty Dolla. I have some of these albums still. Literally, I have a big binder of my old albums. I still have 3 Gucci Mane albums because I used to buy any CD that I saw that I kind of liked.
Dude, I used to love him so much.
So he's just like a character. He was literally like a character. That's why a lot of people pay attention to him. It's like Riff Raff, same type of shit. I was never really into Riff Raff, but that's why people liked him because he was like a character. But there was like theories about like I think it was Ty Dollar Signs or Tyga. He was doing it live on Instagram, and then like he's like, this is my clone or whatever, and people filmed it, and a guy came out that looked exactly like him, and they were showing how their tattoos matched. So it's almost like a synthetic carbon copy of the person, because it will literally, like, if I got it done, it would like graft your skin so all your tattoos would be the same and stuff like that. There's some weird theories about that, because I've seen that Instagram video, and if it's faked, like it has all the comments coming up of like people being like, what the fuck, because somebody screenshotted it and they look identical. It's either Tyga or Ty Dollar Signs, one of those characters. And then you have like there's a couple really gay rappers like Young Thug. I heard stuff about him that
he's a bit fruity, all right.
So let's get into another one.
That's the, like you said, he went into prison, came out, didn't seem like the same person. Let's see.
Some of these photos are...
Drake tied to industry manipulation. The theory: Drake was industry planted and heavily protected, marketed to become a global icon, possibly at the expense of other artists such as X. Fuel to the fire: accusations from other rappers, ghostwriting scandals, and beefs with rappers like Meek Mill and Pusha T, especially. While there is no concrete evidence, but fans have constantly debated the authenticity of this conspiracy theory.
So there's someone like Mark Dice. I'd love to get Mark Dice on the show at some point. I read his book about the Illuminati. I actually like Mark Dice. I don't know what people out there's opinion actually is of him, but I liked him. I read it. I had his book. I gave it to someone, which is sad because I don't have it anymore. But his Illuminati book was actually fairly good. We're reading it at the college years and years and years ago. I was pretty young, and I watched some of his videos recently, and he's bringing up like the culture stuff that's going on with like the attack on white people and all that stuff, and it's interesting because he talked about like this way back in the day. Like I remember when I was watching Mark Dice at like, I don't know, 20 or something like that, 19. And he talked about like the homo Aleister Crowley magic shit and how like, cause he brought Birdman and Lil Wayne kissing and all that stuff. And he said like Drake and like Lil Wayne would like have sex with each other and invoke this like Crowley magic and stuff like that of like the satanic butt sex rituals, you know what I mean?
Yikes. That's
so like, and you think about it, that could be part of it. And like, you got like What's his name? Kid Cudi in the dress. Like that's all humiliation rituals. And they're like, so many people did that. Like even Kurt Cobain did. And it's like,
You
I
think
think
there's
it's all
anything to that
subversion.
Kid Cudi thing? Because wasn't he seeing Cassie?
Yeah,
And the whole
something
thing
like
with
that.
him and Diddy and Cassie and stuff, and Cassie was like dating him, and Diddy found out, and then all of a sudden he starts dressing up in
Like,
fucking dresses and stuff.
what the fuck is this, man? Like, this is not edgy. You're a homo. Like, that's so weird. Like, why are you wearing a wedding dress?
That just makes my skin crawl, man.
Like, I actually really liked Kid Cudi when he first came out. Like,
Yeah,
what
same.
happened to
I
that?
saw him live.
How can I was like, can I zoom in now? Like, what? You saw Kid Cudi live? That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like, what
the music.
happened, man? I never knew he wore that wedding dress. That is like he's wearing like I wore eyeliner when I was like, emo when I was 12. I wasn't a grown man wearing a wedding dress and eyeliner. That is so weird. I forgot that he did that wedding dress shit. Oh, it's just cool. Like, and people are like, well, the Scottish wear kilts. I'm like, it's so fucking different. It is not the same thing. So weird. Strange.
Here's another.
He identifies as they, them.
Go away. That's like that thing. I don't know if we were talking about this before, but Sam Smith was interviewed on
Oh yeah.
He was on. I don't know if it was Graham Norton in the UK, and Graham Norton's notoriously he's an Irish like comedian.
Yeah, I know Graham
guy thing. He's gay, like, so it's not like there's any sort of weird gay thing about it. But they were like, they asked him something. They were like, "Oh, we hear you like fishing in your spare time or something like that, or like a hobby or whatever." They asked him like, "What do you like to do when you're not performing and stuff?" And they were like, "We hear you like to fish," and he was like, "Yeah, I do." And they were like, "Is there any chance of us seeing you like, you know, taking up when you retire from music or start to wind down like you might
fishing?"
Yeah, like this, like, you know, kind of just as like some fucking quirky joke or question. They were like, you know, you think you'll take it up more, like, and become a fisherman? And he goes, "No, well, I definitely won't become a fisherman." And he goes, "Why, you don't like fishing that much?" And he goes, No, because I'll become a fisher them.
Was a fisher what?
Fisher them, not a fisherman.
Oh wow, it's so dumb, so stupid.
I literally, like, my eyes, I had to have surgery to have my eyes removed from the back of my head. I was like, what?
Doing flirty fishing, like the
fisher
Children of God cult, where he's like, they're all, you know, at flirty fishing. We'll get into that at some point.
Because we shouldn't be saying fishermen, because that's exclusive to men.
Subversion, Jewish, like that's literally, it's all that stuff is subversion. It's about subverting the culture into degeneracy, because they want everyone to be a degenerate. So they will look at them where it's like, it's okay that you're like, you know, married to a child and, you know, like all breaking their hymen at fucking 4, like disgusting shit that is all in the Talmud.
I seen a video today.
Maybe I was calling Babylonians, so like people they'll know what I mean.
I think it was on Twitter, because I think that's probably the only place it would be allowed. But it was like a girl was after being like sold by her family to one of those fucking Indian like dirty mongoloid fellas.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And she like was like protesting the wedding or whatever, or getting married. And the guy who bought her was like, he went into the other room and they're all filming, they're all like shit and going, blah, 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 blah. And like, he gets a fucking AK-47, right? And he's going to shoot her because she won't, like, she's like giving too much trouble.
And it's his cousin, isn't it?
And there's like, you can see the translations and stuff, and his friends and her friends, and they're pleading with him. And you know what they tell him? They tell him that, no, don't kill her. And at first I was like, oh, they're trying to like save her from like a lunatic. And one of the dudes goes, no, don't kill her, don't shoot her. Show her the real power of a man by R-wording her.
Of course, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's when you come from a culture and countries that's normal. Isn't it going to be fun when they are flooded into your country? Like
this country is just like, we might as well just sink.
We've let in 817,000 people in 4 months, almost 1 million people in 4 months.
You know what's hilarious? Since all this has been done,
us.
We have this new thing now where our like national news thing that's part of the state body.
Yeah.
They like to do this thing where they have these little segments where they try and make it seem like the government is like on our side.
Yeah,
and today I was looking at the news a couple of hours ago, and they're like, oh, there was a plane with 28 Somalians sent back, a chartered flight, right? Now, right, listen to this, right? So there's 28 of them, right? It was 25 adults and 3 kids, I think. That chartered plane that left Dublin Airport last night cost €328,000 for one flight, just one way, right?
Yeah.
Now, then they came out and they said, oh, and since since the nation has been like in uproar about the immigration thing, the government would like everybody to know that we've sent back 161 people.
That's nice. There's millions of them.
You are literally letting hundreds of thousands in every few weeks, and
That's a huge problem.
Less than 200.
And that's why it's funny too. I'm like, the people that have assimilated to our culture that have been here for generations, especially those in Canada that fled like the slavery, in America run by Jews. That's literally like, do you know how many people in America actually own slaves? It's like so small. It's like 1.4% that actually own slaves, and the majority of them were Jewish. That's so much so that they would close the slave auctions on the Jewish holidays. I was gonna start saying Jays or the Talmudist Babylonian, because not all Jewish people, it's the Talmudist Jews that are doing this. So it's just funny, and it's just like, and then you think these people can become American or Canadian as you have adapted and became who we are as a people just because they show up here? Like, it should be everyone that's been here for generations, including Ireland too, where people did assimilate to the Irish culture, but I am more on the side of Ireland needs to be for the Irish, obviously, because like everywhere else needs to be, but that's not this episode, but it's a big problem. Everyone's seeing it.
Here's an interesting conspiracy theory, and I don't know how much you know about this or have looked into it, so I'll be interested to hear. Aaliyah's untimely death in August 25th, 2001 in a plane crash in the Bahamas has been the subject of various conspiracy theories over the years. While official investigations attributed the tragedy to a pilot error and aircraft overloading, some people speculate that her death was orchestrated to benefit others in the music industry. Here is an overview of some of the official findings. Aaliyah and 8 other people perished when their Cessna 402B crashed shortly after takeoff from Marsh Harbour Airport. The investigation revealed that the aircraft was carrying more weight than permitted, with one more passenger than it was certified for. The pilot was not authorized to fly the plane and had falsified all of his credentials. And toxicology reports indicated the presence of cocaine and alcohol in the pilot's system also. These factors led to the conclusion that the crash was due to human error and regulatory violations. So then we come to the conspiracy theories. Some theories suggest that Aaliyah's rising stardom posed a threat to other artists, leading to her elimination. Specifically, it says that her death cleared the path for Beyonce's ascent in the music industry. This theory lacks concrete evidence and is widely regarded as speculative.
Of course.
Another theory implicates figures like Jay-Z, Beyonce, and Sean Diddy Combs.
Of course.
Suggesting that they had motives to orchestrate Aaliyah's death. This narrative gained traction on platforms like TikTok, but until now still remains unsubstantiated.
Of course.
In the book Baby Girl Better Known as Aaliyah by Kathy Landolly, a claim is made that Aaliyah was reluctant to board the ill-fated flight and was allegedly giving a sleeping pill before being carried onto the plane. This account is based on a single witness and hasn't been corroborated so far. At some point to the fact that Aaliyah and Michael Jackson Aaliyah, Left Eye, and Michael Jackson all died on the 25th of different months and years, suggesting a pattern. However, this is a likely coincidence without
symbolic sacrificial rituals. Like, think about this. Before Michael Jackson's death, he was like, "They're coming after me, guys. You know, they're coming after me." I can't.
Isn't all right?
But he said that they were coming after him, and then he dies. And the thing is, Michael Jackson was pretty crucial. He was pretty. What's the word I want to use? He was critical of the Jay's interest in the music industry and owning the rights to his music. So much so that I told Billy that he had Nazi memorabilia, and Billy's like, "No, he didn't." And I'm like, "Sure did."
And you know what? Another thing is weird, right? And maybe you could say, "Oh, it's just what happens with conspiracy theories," but like, especially now, all the stuff that's come out about Diddy, and Diddy, Jay-Z, and Beyonce's names seem to come up in a lot of conspiracies.
I know. Like, even when we talk about Diddy and like the death of like someone got shot or whatever outside the club, and wasn't J-Lo at, there's a bunch of stuff like that. And it's funny how it always comes back to those three specifically. And like this idea of like the music video Crazy in Love, where she transitions from like the old Beyonce to the new like Queen Bee type of Illuminati figure, and that was the idea that she probably joined the ranks of the Illuminati. And they show this stuff within like music videos and certain things, and like Jay-Z is clearly a part of it. And in my idea, they're probably just like using him in some regard, and that he believes that he's on top, but they probably sold him these lines of like, yeah, like, cause these oligarchs and these people are parading these people around with like clowns. Like Malcolm X pointed this stuff out, where he was like, they would have a lot of people within the jazz black community where they'd wear these like outrageous outfits, but then try to look like white people and dye their hair. And you see this in the Malcolm X movie too, where he's like, kind of like, he doesn't want to be like that. He doesn't want to, jazzaballs or whatever that some of the terms that they used to use of like being their clown, because they would make them clownish. And then obviously some of the white people, probably more Jewish culture and not culture, but Jewish subversion that was going on is essentially just making fun of them, realizing that they'll never be them. So that's why Malcolm X, he switched and became more like, he dressed proper and he wore suits that fit him and got the glasses, cut his hair down, because he wanted to become an intellectual, not like what they wanted the black community to become, like this kind of like character of itself. If you think about hip hop and how much kind of goofy stuff was going on, the outfits, like all of that was pushed by certain people.
Yeah, some of it's very not for me. Some of the stuff that came back. So we have Jewish industry control, anti-Semitic tropes. It has in brackets afterwards.
Of
course. So a classic anti-Semitic trope claiming Jewish executives control the music industry and push black artists to promote sex, drugs, and violence, all for profit. This theory is often pushed in online fringe communities and by some public figures. For example, Kanye West made controversial statements in 2022. A mix of exaggeration, scapegoating, and misunderstanding of the power dynamics in media industries. These are all dangerous and false.
Of course.
And then it has a little
image
bit
of 50
about
Cent. Just imagine a meme of "It is the Jays" underneath. He's like, we all know. That's a lot of them got promoted, I'm sure, and got to be able to be as influential as they are and able to reach the heights of fame because they sold their soul.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. There's a little bit there as well. Like, I don't know, it kind of ties into the whole Jay-Z and Beyonce are high-ranking Illuminati. And it says that they use music to manipulate the masses. Triangle hand signs, Rockefeller symbol, lyrics referencing the third eye or dark forces, and imagery like pyramids and checkerboard floors in all music videos. Key albums, Watch the Throne, Lemonade, Black is King. Also, there's theories have popped up in recent years that say that Kanye was expelled from the group after rebelling internally.
Interesting. He's like, I noticed why am I going like a hick at? That's
You
like
should
the only
go
thing I know how to do. Sorry, no, but he's like, I know what you're doing. Like, it's funny because like I truly think that like maybe. Like, I always joke that he was a clone. I do think they have cloning technology. Like, I think that's very real. I think that most people don't want to accept how crazy the world actually is and how truth is stranger than fiction in a lot of ways. But I do find it interesting that he kind of shifted, and then he was like showing, remember that video of him showing all of the Jewish record executives?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, look at all these. These are all of the ones that are Jewish. And he starts noticing these things, right? And then he starts researching. Maybe he watched Europa: The Last Battle. He starts like cluing into the stuff that's going on, and then he switches. Even if he was under some MK Ultra type mind control, which I think they do to a lot of celebrities, that maybe something just switched on in his head. And he even, I think he believes that they sacrificed his mom, because we talked about this on our Hollywood episode, was this idea that they have to sacrifice their children, even in the ways of transgenderism. The Prime Minister, Mark Carney in Canada, his kid is transgender, and his wife is definitely a man. His wife looks like a man. She's got an Adam's apple. But his daughter also thinks she's a guy. So like it's not only do you sacrifice your children physically through these occult rituals with these death sacrifices to essentially show your allegiance to these group of people, but it's also that if you can subvert your children and turn them into trans, you're also obeying Baphomet, which Baphomet is only he's kind of like a god that's kind of made up. He's not as ancient as some of these other like Baal. I think it's more of a sacrifice to these like demonic forces that I think are very real. You know what I mean? And then so you have to give up something. So like your children, you know, being a guy, now it's a girl, you know, like.
Here's other interesting ones. And I think you mentioned it earlier about like blood sacrifices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this is the core idea that a celebrity must endure a major personal tragedy, usually the death of a close loved one, as a sacrifice in exchange for fame, fortune, or elevation in the entertainment elite. These deaths are claimed to be ritualistic, planned, or industry enforced. Kanye and Donda West. So in November 2007, Kanye's mother died after complications from a cosmetic surgery.
That's not weird.
The theory says that some believe her death was part of an Illuminati blood sacrifice to solidify Kanye's place in the upper echelons of fame. He has since referenced feeling responsible and has openly said in interviews like TMZ Live that he was offered sacrifices. There's a quote from a 2022 Drink Champs interview where he says, "My mother was sacrificed. Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son. Dr. Dre, his son. Out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing."
Oh yeah.
Status currently is there seems to be no evidence officially of foul play. Her death was officially due to heart failure following surgery. The theory is symbolic for some and literal for others.
There's a lot of people in the hip hop industry, especially, that lost like their mom, their dad, their son, their daughter, like in Hollywood in general. There's a lot. I don't believe it. Like, you know, my buddy was making fun of me. Like, I don't believe in coincidences. I think everything happens for a reason. It's set up for a reason. And you have to prove to these people. That's why, like, say someone like me, I might be able to, you know, if I ever gain notoriety for my music and stuff like that, I may be able to be in the underground to some extent. They never put someone like me and my music, especially some of the stuff that I've done, like I always think of the song Extremist or Parasites in Parliament, where I've called out some of these agendas, and I'm working on a song right now called The White Man's Burden. So it's going to be probably my most controversial song whenever that releases, because I'm going to be very busy coming up with the kids and stuff like that. But like, it is just interesting because you see this throughout the hip hop industry and like in the subverted culture of, you know, having these ethnic groups fighting each other and gang wars, and like it's all controlled. Like Jerry Heller, Jewish, pushing NWA and be like, yeah, and like even I can't remember her name, but there's this older black woman who wrote books about this type of stuff in the culture, and she would talk about like, you know, like once you degrade yourself, then you're able to take control of these people that are degenerates that have degraded themselves to a lower level, you know, get them to call themselves disparaging words, you know, like they called each other the N-word constantly, but then get mad when a white person, you know, like Shiloh Hendrix calls somebody, you know what I mean? And then you see the response, and why that happened was because when, Camaro, whatever his name is, Anthony, killed Austin Metcalf. You saw in the GoFundMe, you saw all of the different ethnic groups, mostly black people, that were saying that how much they hate white people and they deserve it and we should kill them all. So the response to like the Shiloh Hendrix thing wasn't because she said the word at a kid. Like that's not even what it's about. It obviously was fed up. I don't think what she did was justified. But the guy filming her was a pedophile, so there's that. And then then when she continued to say it, and essentially it was just like, I don't give a fuck. It's more of a fuck you thing. That's why it happened. For the people that don't understand, it was like a fuck you thing of white people having enough of like being kicked down, and you know, like they call each other a word, but then somebody else does it, and then they freak out. If somebody calls me and that's, well, it was because of slavery, and all, yeah, there's bad connotations to that word. Why are you using it? Like I always like Morgan Freeman's thing, like you all complain about racism. You know how to stop racism? Stop talking about it, right? So like this idea of what has been going on, and it's like they're pitting us against each other. Like I believe that yes, there's being a systematic destruction of the European race. I've pointed to this. I have tons of evidence. I have writings, PDFs. I have all the stuff that can prove the UN agenda of the place of migration and stuff. But it's not saying that we shouldn't be coming together and realizing what's happening and why these things are happening and why they push this subversive culture on everybody. You know, shaking booties, instant gratification for money and fame. You know, like how many OnlyFans models is there? Like I was listening to Jake Shields. Everybody that doesn't listen to Jake Shields' show, Fight Back, it's one of the best podcasts out there in my opinion. And he was debating that one chick that's on OnlyFans, and just his response is just very calm and kind of funny when he just like how he responds to it. And like, how much has that been pushed on the culture? Guess who owns OnlyFans? Can you guess? Who owns Tinder? Who owns Pornhub? Like, if people start to notice, it all goes back to the same people that are pushing their subversive nature on everybody else, this degeneracy to bring everybody to their level. You know how you rule over a man? You make him become like an animal, and then you can take control of him. Hence why we have so much like riots in the streets, fights over race and religion, and you know, people would think that I contribute to it by pushing this division. No, my care for my own people and love for my own people is not hatred for others. I've had friends of all walks of life, and I've loved hip hop music my entire life and loved it so much where I did research and I looked into like where these people came from, what their struggle was, watching documentaries on this stuff, like really enjoying what that culture was, especially the original foundations of what came from it was this idea of building communities. And like, you know, there would be white rappers, black rappers, Hispanic rappers, like all these people came together. It was like, oh, you can spit, like, and they would like big up each other. And there wasn't really this thing of like a racial divide, especially in hip hop. And it's fine because then you have people like Eminem that almost felt bad and never, ever, ever put on a white rapper, ever. Even Necro talks about how he used to talk to him and he wouldn't do it, but he put up every other like black rapper almost because I feel like what I really do feel is that Eminem didn't want a white kid to be better than him. You know what I mean? To like one up him and become better because he was afraid of that stuff. Like he had beef with Cage, which like is fortunately I've argued with Cage on the internet too, so that's fun. But I have like 2 Cage tattoos, and I've always liked Cage's music because it was interesting, it's different. He went through a hell of a time in his life, you know. His story is a wild story, but his dad and being gunned down. There's a lot of his story is interesting to say the least. I have a lot of hip hop. Then he went to a mental institution and they started writing rhymes outside of like when he was out of the mental institution. So pretty wild stories of some of these hip hop artists. And it was all about like a struggle, right? And conveying the struggle to the people. That's what my music's always been about, is pushing this idea of like conspiracy theory stuff, but also like I said, one of my songs is very like sad and is supposed to invoke emotion out of people. Like all my music is meant to make people think and invoke emotion. And even if like there's songs I have that sure sounds kind of sexist and stuff like that, but it's the idea of like making you think about why this stuff occurs, you know?
Yeah.
So hip hop used to be a lot of times, the underground stuff especially.
It's weird. Like, and when you look at a lot of these, like, I don't know, whatever people want to call them, the coincidences. Like, I didn't know about the Jennifer Hudson thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Kind of heard about it. Well, I get into it.
So in 2008, her mother, brother, and nephew were all brutally murdered by her sister's estranged husband. A lot of people claim
that's weird.
A lot of people claim that this tragedy was orchestrated to boost Hudson's career, which peaked pretty much right after this with an Oscar and a Grammy. She later played a central role in Dreamgirls, joined The Voice, and appeared on major award shows. She's remained largely private about the incident. The crime was investigated and supposedly resolved. The perpetrator, William Balfour, was convicted, and the official statement said that there was no evidence of industry involvement.
I don't know, man, because I think there's a lot of cops that are very crooked. A lot of like people in influential roles in law enforcement, judges, like that. Money talks, man, and a lot of these people are corrupt. Our whole system, all of our politicians, every person has a price, except for some. You know, and a lot of people I think just sell their soul for that. Literally, like in this life, I always said that since I was like younger, and I started to look into this stuff. And there's a lot of new people that are coming up or whatever on like try to have some influence over TikTok or whatever, YouTube. I've been doing this for 17 years. I should have started doing it earlier on the internet, but I was in a bad mental state and going through my own stuff. But I've been doing music and talking about this stuff. I've like literally like the receipts of how long I've been doing this stuff for. And I wasn't the best and sober minded or clear in my thoughts, but I was always looking into this stuff. And it is like kind of interesting because once you start like looking out from the background and seeing like your own behavior, the things you're influenced by. And obviously there's a lot of weird things within like Hollywood and the music industry that we've talked about of where they can hide anything. They can make anything look like anything, you know, especially like it's a like politics. It's a political theater. Like they're all acting like they're in opposition of each other when they all share more in common with each other than they do with us. They're all rich for doing nothing, for playing pretend. And a lot of these musicians do the same. And now we're getting to a point where like YouTube people like Mr. Beast can make literally like billions, like so much money from just doing some like fun content with his friends and a camera, right? And it never used to be like that. So back then you'd have to kind of compete and say there was a singer that was better than you or you didn't like. And then, you know, you get close with the Jays and, you know, cause everyone says, oh, there's an Italian mafia. Maybe there's an Irish mafia. They never talk about the Jays mafia because there is a Jewish mafia. That's true. It's existed for so. If you say, oh, it's anti-Semitic, the one main head of the Italian mafia was Jewish. So start looking at stuff. You're like, man, that's a little weird, you know. So if they control and you get they got their fingers into the music industry right at the beginning. Hollywood. We talked about this in the one episode of the Talmudist Jews, like getting involved with Hollywood and all that stuff. And it's interesting because if you look at you remember the movie, The Dewey Cox Story? Mm-hmm. Very funny movie. Remember when he's in the music studio and then you have all the Hasidic Jews behind him? Mm-hmm. And they're all like giving him money to like produce his music. He's literally making fun because it's a real thing. And everyone's like, it's not anti-Semitic or hate to like notice things. If everyone that owned the record labels in Hollywood and funded all of it and were funding all the movies or like, you know, Pornhub or all these like mainstream things that get pushed into our subconscious, the movies, the music, everything that's influential, and they're all Muslim, I would have a question too, you know? Like I would be like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
So like, it is a weird thing once you step back and you start to look at that stuff, and it makes sense why hip hop changed into what it did and how it became shake your booty, you know, shooting off guns, you know, go sell some drugs and shoot some kid on the street over like petty beefs, you know, and then they were pushing this constantly. And then all the people, like we said, that were like doing this, like whether it be NWA, or a lot of these influential hip hop groups weren't actually gangster and weren't doing this in real life. And then you have kids that listen to it and will like start fights over it, beef over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's when for me, I'm like, I kind of check out because I'm like, especially when you're fighting over that trivial shit. I'm like, all right, okay. I don't understand why you're shooting each other over like some like fake online thing that doesn't even really exist and these people don't actually care about you anyway.
No. And to like kill your people in your own community, like that, like the idea of black on black crime, it's a very real thing. And this, like, statistically speaking, look it up. This is proven. White people are more likely to die by cops shooting them throughout like a lot of so all this stuff that a lot of this subversion and these things, yeah, bad things have happened. Like the LA riots would probably justify all this stuff, you know, but a lot of this stuff is overhyped. And then who controls all the news media outlets that invokes these division tactics between different ethnic groups or people in general? It's the same people, right? So you're constantly pushing this. And you're constantly getting people to infight, kill their own people, you know, like this, like get, you know, influencing crime. So then the fathers are no longer in the home. That's a big aspect of what's happening within the black communities. And there's a lot now, black people talking about this stuff. There's a guy I'm trying to get on the show and he calls this stuff out all the time and people hate it. And a lot of people like him for it, but a lot of people hate him for it. Mark Dice was literally just talking about this, how this one black woman is going viral because she's like, I have black fatigue. you know, of like the crazy behavior and erratic behavior coming from some of those communities, because it's been influenced on them. That's your culture, and that's not what your culture is. That's Jewish culture that they subverted and forced on you to believe is cool and hip and edgy, and we all fell for it, especially white kids. White kids that weren't like raised in the ghettos definitely fell for a lot of this stuff. I know a lot of them. I was one of them. You were one of them. Billy was one of them. We were all one of that. Like, it's just where we came up and just before YouTube. So it's interesting when you start to step back and like look at it from the outside, you know.
I was just looking up some of the stats there about like black on black and white on black and stuff.
Just do it on X, so probably filter
So
it a bit.
let's see. Black on black crime. Approximately 88% of black homicide victims were killed by other black people.
Yes, that's true. I've seen all these.
White victims killed by black offenders, 566 cases in a 12-month period of murders. That is, like, people that were actually confirmed dead. So
Now,
500.
how many white people kill black people?
Black people killed by white people in the same time period, 240. So it's already more than double.
Oh yeah. So that's when they're like, white people are always killing black. No, it's like the other way around. It's very, once you start to look at it, and also the whole world has been programmed to hate white people because of things that they say their ancestors did that they didn't do. This over exaggerated outright lies of who we are as a people is a factual thing.
In 2023, there were 1,164 fatal police shootings in the United States. However, only 248 of these were black individuals.
Of course.
So that means
that's
there was
how
like
you can,
over 900 that
yes.
weren't.
So that's how you can radicalize people, and they use the news a lot of times now. There is, I don't care what people think and want to, there is.
I'm not saying that's a good thing either. I'm not saying like, oh, well, you know, only 248 died. So like, that's fine. I'm not saying that nobody should be dying in any circumstance like that. But like, it's like you said, it's to peddle that shit of going like, okay, so let's tell all like the, you know, African American people, let's tell them, right, your biggest enemy is the white guy. And then let's tell the white
all around the world.
Let's tell the white guy, your enemy is the black guy and the guy down the street and whatever. And you can all like kill each other and murder each other. And then we'll sit back and laugh.
That's what's happening clearly. And everyone that has the eyes to see can see that's what's happening. And it's also the thing of like, the white people are the real worldwide minority, right? So it's just interesting how much this stuff kind of gets pushed and it's not just the black community, it's the whole world has been brainwashed to essentially think that white people are their enemy, when it's actually, we all have the same common enemy. And I'm not saying it's all the Jays or something like that, but it's the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Habsburgs, the Orsinis, these families that you don't even see, the royal family. Like, I know often when I do videos talking about like Canadian heritage and who we are as a people and what makes us Canadian and why Canada is what it is, people will be like, well, your ancestors did this. I'm like, no, they didn't. Most people that built Canada in countries like Australia and stuff like that, they literally came to these places with the shirt on their back and then had to put their blood, sweat, and tears into building these countries while they were poor and dying. Literally, like dying. Family members just dying all around you all the time. They didn't benefit from the spoils of the royal family's thievery and you know what I mean? So it's so absurd when people bring that type of stuff up, because most people have never either read a book, especially nowadays, more than any other time in our history. People do not read. They do not fact check anything. They believe Google that's owned by BlackRock. They believe AI that has been literally admitted that it can lie and it pushes certain agendas. So like now people are just getting their facts from the internet unless you actually do like actual fact checking and actually backing up the history and the writings and stuff like that. ChatGPT does take stuff from articles around the internet and stuff like that, which could point more towards the truth to some extent, but you can't trust AI, especially when it's like Google.
Ultimately,
it's owned by BlackRock, who owns BlackRock? Larry Fink.
Ultimately, like if I owned a ChatGPT, right, and I have some sort of agenda, or even if I don't have an agenda, even let's just say, right, I own ChatGPT, right, and let's just say I say, okay, I don't like a certain thing, whatever it might be. I don't like white people, let's say.
Yeah.
I don't like anything that's like kind of helpful to the white communities or anything like that. So I set parameters on ChatGPT that anytime anyone requests any information or anything about white people or white communities, I could just skew that heavily the other way.
That's like if you look up, is it okay to have Asian pride? It'll be like, yes. Da, da, da. Is it okay to have black pride? Yes. Da, da, da. Is it okay to have gay pride? Yes. Da, da, da. And it's like, is it okay to have white pride? And it's like, no, white pride is associated with supremacy groups and Nazis and all that shit. Which is like not even close to true. Everyone's listened to David Duke twice now. He's been on Jake Shields' podcast. Listen to him and tell me how like crazy and racist that guy is. He's an old man that was fighting for his cultural heritage, and it's quite clear that's what it was. And they demonized him because guess what? Who owns the media? Everyone needs to realize how much. Like I truly believe, and I fell for this. Everyone has been brainwashed so heavily. They've been programmed by cultural subversion and this cultural Marxist agenda, which I've done the research. That's clearly what it is. That most people can't even understand what's going on. Stop right now.
And this is proving your point that you've just said, right? So as you were talking there, I ChatGPT'd, is it okay to have Black Pride? And it goes, yes, it is absolutely okay. Actually, should I bring this up on screen?
Sure. Yeah.
Does that make it so
Are
people
you done with your conspiracies after this, and we'll get into the big one to end it?
That I'm not like faking this or anything?
Yeah.
Bear with me now for a sec.
Were we done with your mini? I know there's probably a couple smaller ones, but
yeah, there is other ones, but they're kind of like inconsequential, really. Okay, so is it okay to have Black Pride? Yes, it is absolutely okay to have Black Pride. What does Black Pride mean? Celebrating Black culture, history, identity, recognizing the resilience and achievements of Black people, blah, 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 right? So they're like, and again, right, I have no issue with that.
No.
Any of that. But here's the part where it gets a bit sketchy. So everybody just remember this bit. Yes, it is absolutely okay is the first line, right, of the answer. Now, I asked, is it okay to have white pride? Now, have a look at the first line of this one. This is a nuanced and sensitive question.
Of course.
So let's address it with care and clarity. Is it okay to have white pride? Short answer, it depends heavily on the intent and context. Black pride, Latino pride, indigenous pride, and similar expressions arose as a response to systemic oppression, marginalization, and cultural erasure. White pride is not
true, though? Is that true? That's not true, though, because they can exist in their own countries. Like Latinos came from like the idea of like that. That's from like colonialism. That's like people forget that Mexico was a colonized country, and you don't hear them crying about like land acknowledgements or any of that other shit that all the white countries that were involved in colonialism, even though I do believe the indigenous have been paid back in full. I know their chiefs steal it, but in Canada, we give them over $2 trillion over the span of all these years. That's a lot of money. And then go look at the reserves. They don't look very great.
It does actually. Okay, so maybe this is going to come back around a bit, but white pride is not rooted in a history of oppression. Instead, it has historically been associated and heavily co-opted by white nationalist and supremacy groups, for example, KKK, neo-Nazis, etc.
But if you said, is it okay to have, if it's okay to be a black nationalist, I'm sure it'd be like, yeah, it's fine, dude. But you can't be you can't be like, I think that Ireland should be for the Irish, because that's technically white nationalism. Like it's just a stupid thing.
Because of this, white pride is often perceived and used as a dog whistle for racism or exclusion, even if that's not someone's intent.
What is racism?
What is okay and healthy? It's okay to be proud of your family, heritage, and cultural background, being proud of Irish, German, Italian, Appalachian, whatever. You celebrate European cultures, histories, traditions without excluding or diminishing others. This is something referred to as ethnic or cultural pride rather than white pride, which has specifically and often harmful political connotations.
Problematic. Oh my God.
It has been used to justify racial superiority. It ignores or denies the privileges historically associated with whiteness in the Western societies. It often masks deeper exclusionary or supremacist views, even if
yeah, it's crazy. So, and then imagine, right, if I did what that one kid did to me using one of my videos on TikTok and said that all black people are demons, because he said all white people are demons. And then they were associated with the Nephilim and all. Imagine if I said that, was just to this whole long video about how everyone but white people are demons. That's how crazy some of these people have been subverted and like thinking all this crazy shit. The corruption of the indigenous leader is to blame in this mismanagement of all the money that's been. It's very true, man. Like this Chiefs, we knew there's one guy not far from me. He's dead now, but I heard stories about him, and he stole all of the money that was given, and it's like crazy. The amount of money, he had a mansion while everyone else is suffering. Sad. If you look up the amount of money that has been given to the indigenous communities, and then you look up their way of like their standard of living, it stays the exact same, even though they've been given billions of dollars. It's thievery.
That's crazy. So I said, but how come you didn't answer like this when I asked about Black Pride? And it goes, when people talk about Black Pride, it usually a response to centuries of systemic racism, oppression, and cultural erasure, a form of affirmation and survival in societies that have historically devalued Black lives, an expression that promotes inclusion, not exclusion. And
That's
then on the flip side, then for white pride, it says used by white supremacist groups like the KKK and neo-Nazis, tied to ideologies of racial superiority and exclusion, weaponized in backlash to civil rights movements and multiculturalism.
Of course. And if you actually look and study the civil rights movements, for everybody that doesn't realize, Martin Luther King Jr. Was a cultural Marxist. The dude was a communist. And people like Jesse Lee or whatever talks about this stuff. And there's a lot, you can look at this. The black families were structured. The husband was at home. They had a father and a mother throughout, like from the end of the slave trade, which at that time, right? Like the slave trade ended in like whatever, the 18s, whatever, right? And then still went on the other side of the world. But if you saw the family unit in the quote unquote black communities, the African American communities, they were pretty cohesive. And then the civil rights movement got pushed and it broke apart the family. And then you have this push of like drugs and Ronald Reagan flooding the ghettos with crack cocaine, getting people addicted to drugs. And that's how you control a society also, is to enforce drugs. And they did this with the Chinese with the opiates. They like essentially how you can destroy countries is by getting everyone hooked on drugs, and having them all depressed and all that stuff. You have that in Canada. We have a huge fentanyl problem. In BC, where they've legalized drugs, the second leading cause of death, I think, from 18 to 25 is fentanyl. So that's how you destroy society from within. Like, it's quite clear they're destroying the entire Western world,
Yeah, and it's important to say, I think there as well, that our issue isn't with this isn't like I don't like I'm not questioning it as in like, well, Black Pride shouldn't be a thing or Latino Pride shouldn't be a thing or whatever shouldn't be.
I think everyone should.
That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, everybody should be welcome to do whatever they want, but like there's a clear like skew there in like that information you're being fed on the internet, which we should all have a problem with. Whoever is up above that is peddling this shit, because it's like, the black community shouldn't like the white community shouldn't like the black community, the Latino community shouldn't like the white
right?
people. It's like we're supposed to be on different sides of everything while they sit above kind of laughing about it while we all kill each other.
Yeah, we know who is doing it. Though the identity as a collective group, when it serves their interests, unfortunately, the indigenous communities are doing well, feel no obligation to help those that are not. Yeah, it's very true. It's all about self-interest. Everyone has been brainwashed of this like radical individualism, only look out for yourself. And then we've lost the sense of community and family, and like even like a nation is supposed to be like a big family, and you're supposed to come together and have the same cultural heritage. And that's why they're flooding the countries with foreign diasporas of people. It's because it's being done on purpose, right? It's just funny because obviously this is different cultures, and obviously like, and talking about this stuff is relevant because like this, a lot of white people really did like hip hop and all that stuff, but people forget that like there was blood and built on the blood and bones of others, but all civilizations and all cultures have been to a lot of extent, almost every single one. But a lot of people do benefit from the aspirations of white people and the determination. That's a fact, right? You wouldn't have the modern world. You wouldn't have cars and planes. You wouldn't have like so many things. If, you know, even when people came over here to Canada, there was there was people that didn't survive the winters. They came with like 70 people and 6 people survived. And then like, all right, try again, send some more boats of people, you know? And that's like the determination and will, you know? And a divided population is easier to control. That's very true. All right, well, want to get into the big conspiracy now?
Sure. Go for
So
it.
in April of 2012, a letter was posted on Blog Hip Hop and is read talking about like this idea and this chilling explanation of what is going on and why the culture is so subverted, and it's pretty interesting. So the letter is anonymous. Author claims to be a music industry decision maker who was present at an invite-only meeting of like types in 1991. The purpose was a meeting to discuss the new direction of rap music and behest a small group of people also present the meeting who represented the represented the private prison industry. Okay. And this is what's interesting. And we know who owned all of that stuff. So, let me know. Can you hear this? Okay. After more than 20 years, I've decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music, ultimately the American society. I've struggled for a long time, weighing the pros and cons of making this story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day, so I simply decided to leave out names, of course you did, and all the details may risk my own personal well-being that whose were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for. Between the late 1980s and early 1990s, I was called into you may call a decision maker with one of those more established companies in the music industry. I came from Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in business. The industry was different back then. Since technology and media weren't accessible to everyday people like it is today, the industry was more controlled over the public and the means it needs to influence them in any way they wanted to. This may explain why in the early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of Jewish music business insiders, he didn't say Jewish, but we all know, to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know that we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices I've ever seen. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people being there, most of them familiar faces, long noses, look kind of like goblins. Just kidding. Speaking to those who knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting of us didn't care for rap music and failed to see the purpose in being invited to these private gatherings. These people didn't even like the music. And that's why and this is not like, if you look at the record executives and the labels, especially at this time, and you look into who was running them, it was literally like, it's like, I'm telling you, it's like 95% the Jays. So they went to this private discussion. Among the attendees was this small group of, he said, unfamiliar faces, and no attempt to socialize beyond their circles. Based on their behavior and formal appearance, they didn't seem to be in our industry. Because this guy could have started off, they came from Europe, maybe was like into the Beastie Boys and stuff like that. And then, so our casual chatter was interrupted. We were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued and in some cases disturbed many of us. The agreement was a page long, but very clear on the matter and the consequences, which it stated that violating the terms would result in job termination. We asked several people what this meeting was about, and for this reason, it was so secret that you couldn't find anyone who had answers for us. So it was so enclosed and it was so secret, not even like the people that were invited, only obviously the select few with the tiny little hats. So a few people refused to sign it and walked out. No one stopped them. I was attempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me. And, you know, curiosity did kill the cat. A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected the agreements. I just, quickly after the meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He gave us the floor to a man who introduced himself by his first name and gave no further details. My name is Hashem, and his personal background information. About his personal background, so nobody knew who he really was. I think he was the owner of the residence, but it was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us of our success and our achievements in the industry and congratulated us for being selected as a part of the small group of decision makers. You got like P. Diddy in the back, like with a child on his lap or whatever. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable at the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies who he represented had invested interest in the very profitable industry, which became more and more rewarding with our active involvement. He explained that the companies we work with had invested millions into building privately owned prisons, and that our position of influence in the music industry would actually help them impact their profitability of these investments. I remember many of us in the group immediately looked at each other, confused at the time. I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what did they have to do with us. We were told that the prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on numbers of inmates. The more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. And this is crazy because this is the same thing of like the multiculturalist agenda of them funding people, you know what I mean? Like them using the hotels and those hotel owners that are being paid to house all the migrants and stuff like that. Shocking, I'm sure the plan is laid out in that supposedly fake protocols. Yeah, and when we talked about the Kalergi plan, they literally said that they were going to bring black people to prominence in the entertainment industry and sports and use them against white people. It's a fact.
They must be on to us, Tom. I don't know if you can see this. So I got a follow a second ago.
Yeah.
This was literally like 2 seconds ago. When I hit on it, obviously it's somebody taking the piss, like, but I don't know if you can make out what that says.
No, I can't. What does it say?
Sick of reading. It says Illuminati membership has followed you. Welcome to the Illuminati Brotherhood.
Of course. I've gotten those like messages on Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, get out of here.
That's hilarious, though, that happened literally as like the notification above it is Strange Brew Podcast is now live with a hip hop conspiracy. And then the next thing is Illuminati membership has just followed you.
Wow, of course. And it's like, who knows, man? But and your phone listens to you so much about some of the, like, you know, and it's like, you would like this advertisement, or you might like this.
You would like to join the Illuminati.
Okay, so they're all confused, but they said that like these privately owned companies will receive funding from the government, much like a lot of these other things, because it's used to systematically destroy us. So the more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. It was clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become more of the, they're privately owned, as they become more publicly traded, they would be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague, who had first opened the meeting, took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employers have become silent investors in the prison business, it is now in their interest to make sure the prisons remain full. Our job was to make sure that this happened by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being used the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music had become increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as an employee, they would buy personal stocks in these prisons. Immediate silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half the people with their dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted by someone shouted, "Is this fucking a joke? Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, it became chaotic. Two of the men that were part of the unfamiliar group, which is still funny if you just put like, you know, Jays. The unfamiliar group, you know, we all know, grabbed a man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled off a gun and we all backed down. They separated from the crowd and all four of us were escorted outside. My industry colleague who had opened the meeting earlier hurried us out of the meeting, reminded us that we have signed this agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking about this publicly, or even that some of us who attended the meeting. I asked him why he was involved with something this corrupt, and he replied it was bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences, because this is obviously all about the culture of subversion. That's like, I believe that's a big part of it. It's out of my hands now. Remember, you signed an agreement. This is the communist takeover of like the music industry and to like subvert everything. He closed the door behind him. The man rushed us to our cars and watched until we drove off. And a million things were going through my mind as I drove away, and I eventually decided to pull over and park on the side of the street to collect my thoughts. I replayed everything in my mind and repeated all. It all seemed so surreal. I was angry with myself for not having to take more of an active role in questioning what was being presented to us. I'd like to believe the shock of it all was suspended my better nature. After what seemed like an eternity, I was able to calm myself down to make it home. It didn't take... I didn't talk or call anyone that night. The next day, back in the office, I was visibly out of it, but blamed it being under the weather. No one else in my department had been invited to the meeting, and I felt no sense of guilt for not being able to share it, what I have witnessed. Or he had some sort of guilt. I thought about contacting the three who were kicked out of the house, but I didn't remember the names and thought tracking them down would probably bring unwanted attention. I considered speaking out publicly at the risk of losing my job, but I realized I'd probably be in more I'd jeopardize more than no. That's cool. I love Bone Thugs and Harmony. Crazy Bone did a worth watching podcast about this meeting. Wow, I didn't know Crazy Bone talked about that. That's pretty cool. Actually, I might actually have to check that out because I always love Bone Thugs because they called out the conspiracy stuff too. And they called out like the Eazy-E death and said it was weird and that they think that I think there was an interview where the Bone Thugs and Harmony, at least it might have been Crazy Bone or one of their lazy, but one of them came out and said like, yeah, it's very suspicious and reference to kind of Illuminati stuff because I was super into this stuff at the time. Okay, so let's get back to the letter. He thought he'd be jeopardizing more than his job, and he didn't want to risk anything happening to his family. He thought about those men with guns and wonder who they were. I had told us this is bigger than the music industry. All I could do was let my imagination run free. There was no answers and no one to talk to. I tried a little bit of research in privately owned prisons, but didn't uncover anything about the music industry's involvement. However, the information I did find confirmed how dangerous the prison business really was. Days turned into weeks. And weeks into months, eventually it was, if this meeting never take place, it all seemed so surreal. I became more reclusive and stopped going to the industry events unless professionals said that he was obligated to. On occasion or two, I found myself attending the same functions as my former colleagues. Both times our eyes met and nothing more but an exchange. So other people that were in the meeting were like, oh, I saw you there, like wild. Because especially if you're up at the top, like you're a music producer, you're like a Dr. Dre, and you're like, really? Like what? As a few months passed, rap music had definitely changed the direction. I was never a fan of it, but I could tell the difference. Rap acts talked about politics or harmless fun, it's true, and were quickly fading away as gangster rap started dominating the airwaves. Only a few months had passed since this meeting, but I suspected this idea was presented that day had been successfully implemented, and it was one that if the order had been given at all major label executives, it's almost like it had been given at all tiers of the levels of the hip-hop industry, and they pushed gangster rap all at the same time, conveniently, like the whole Western world is pushing mass immigration. The music was climbing to the top of the charts, and most companies were more happy to capitalize on it. And each was churning out its own version of this gangster rap, like an assembly line. Everyone bought into it, consumers included. Violence and drug use became a central theme in the rap music. I spoke a few times to my peers in the industry to get their opinions on this new trend, but was told repeatedly that it was a supply and demand thing. Sadly, many of them even expressed the music's reinforced the prejudice of these minority groups. I officially quit the music business in 1993. That's only 2 years after, but my heart had already left months before. I broke ties with the majority of my peers and removed myself from this thing that I'd once loved. I took off some time and returned to Europe for a few years. I settled out of the state and lived a quiet life away from the world's entertainment. As years passed, I managed to keep my secret fearful of sharing it with the wrong person, and also ashamed of not having the balls to blow the whistle. But as rap got worse, my guilt grew. Fortunately, in the late 90s, having the internet and as the resources was able to at my disposal in earlier days, it made it easier to investigate what is now labeled as the prison industry complex. Now that I have a greater understanding of how privately owned prisons operate, things make more sense. Than they ever have before. I see how the criminalization of rap music played a big part in promoting racial stereotypes and misguiding so many impressionable young minds in adopting these glorified criminal behaviors, which often led to incarceration, like we talked about. 20 years of guilt is heavy load to carry, but at least I can do something now by sharing my story. I hope that the fans of the rap music realized how it has been used for the past two past decades. Although I plan on remaining anonymous for obvious reasons, my goal is now to get this information as to many people as possible. Please help me spread the word. Hopefully others who attended these meetings back in 1991 will be inspired by this and tell their own stories. Most importantly, you only have one life. If only one life has been touched by my story, I pray it will helps the guilt become tolerable. So it's crazy because you think about this, right? Like Ronald Reagan pushing crack cocaine that was created by the CIA, according to what I've done research on, into the ghettos, pushing the black communities to be violent, especially against each other, in these gang feuds of different, even hip-hop groups that did happen. You had the Bloods and the Crips, you have like Snoop Dogg's a Crip and Game was a Blood, and you had this reinforced division in music and this cultural Marxist, that's literally what it comes to. That's why like hip-hop culture, I love hip-hop, always have, always will, but a lot of the makings of gangster rap, even Eve talks about it, like I said, is that they were using it to subvert the culture and cause violence and chaos, especially within certain ethnic groups, so they could pack these privately owned prisons with all of these young kids that were impressionable by this music. Isn't that crazy? I heard about this a long time ago too.
I had heard of this. I hadn't heard the full thing, but I think I remember seeing something about it before online.
Yeah, wild dude. And it kind of makes sense, and like all of the privately owned prisons were really pretty much owned by the Jays, and they because then they get shares from it and funding, and that's why people are like, well, we have to pay for all these people to be in prisons. I'm like, not really if they're privately owned, which a lot of prisons are. And then a lot of the prison industries, they'll make like clothes for like McDonald's and Applebee's, and they'll do like these jobs, and they'll get these like essentially more or less free labor. I think they make more money off the prison industry than they have to pay for it.
I would say so.
It's crazy. Eh? So there's definitely other hip hop conspiracies that we'll get into. I've talked about this since the conception of the show. When I had Big Mac on, that was his name that we called him. I'll put that episode on the Patreon at some point, but I joked about it. I was like, I want to do hip hop episodes and conspiracy stuff. And I was like, I rap. And he was like, himself in cellophane. And I was like, that's funny. Because he was a jokester kind of guy. And it was just interesting because like I love hip hop, but I also think that, I know it's true. The Americans literally call it the prison industrial complex. It's true. And I do think that they used specifically, especially gangster rap, because it was this more of like Public Enemy and stuff like. They talked about politics and fighting the system, and you have like Too Short rapping about like his friends and his homies and hanging out, and like a lot of that older school stuff. And then it became more and more about gangster rap, and they pushed more of those people. Like I always loved Cool G rap and people like that, but they also was rapping about gangs and inner conflicts within these gang rivalries, and I do think it was used to I think this conspiracy theory is probably very real, more real than most people want to acknowledge.
It's a scary thought, I'll be honest.
I know, isn't that weird? And
It's like
how much
fucking
they subverted it. And now look at it. It's like super gay and they push Satan all the time. Like that's not a coincidence. That's being pushed by the same people to invert people, to make them believe in horrible things, to like look at like Little Nas X. We went from like, it's really like, you know, NWA, Tupac, even though Tupac was probably gay. We went from all this like hardcore, like even some of the underground stuff, 50 Cent even in G Unit and Eminem, to like Little Nas X, like grinding on Satan. You know what I mean? That's, you know, it's like, obviously it's been used. Doja Cat, like that chick's like a reptilian. There's that video of her looking like a demon and she's all like, got like, she's bald and is curled up in a corner. Like, what the fuck? That's so weird to me, man. She's a scary, I mean, take away the makeup, even Little Kim, take away the makeup from Little Kim and she looks
fucking
horrendous.
terrific. It's absolutely just shocking.
So I enjoyed this. I've been holding on this for a long time, and I was like, it can be a shorter episode, but I really wanted to just, like, if we're going to talk about hip-hop conspiracies, let's talk about a bunch of different ones. So I thought this was really good, and I enjoy doing this because I do love the music. This will come back at some point. Like, that's what I said. Like, I've always loved music, and why I pushed myself more into writing, because it was something, I didn't need a band. I've done all my music by myself, other than the stuff that I've done with Billy, with Tomcat and Kirby, right? Which we released our little album. And interestingly enough, something that's like, it's starting to get a lot of streams on Spotify. I said to Billy, I was like, of course, why? There's a song we did called Reach Out. It's about suicide prevention. And like, it's getting more and more streams. I was like, out of all the things that we've done, like my Fuck Trudeau song will always have probably the most downloads because it was just, people were using it all over TikTok. Like it went viral, thousands upon thousands of videos and then shares and stuff like that. But like, I'm like, I've got all the stuff that I've done. Me and Billy's really sad song about like, and then Billy's like, there's somebody that loves you. There's so, like, you know, like just this idea of like, you know, your friend, you know, there's people out there that love you and you need to remember that. Don't kill yourself. And that's the song that's getting more and more streams now.
And then they listen to the rest of it and go, oh
yeah, this guy like literally told trans people to unalive themselves in the song, which it was the song's called Extremist for a reason. It's supposed to make fun of all that stuff and say like, oh, you're gonna call me extreme here. It's like the same idea of like Eminem making the music that he did of like how like calling in all this stuff and being like talking about killing his wife. It's just a fantasy world. Like a lot of hip hop in general and music, and a lot of times, not all of it, but a lot of it is like a fantasy world that they created. You know, Eminem wasn't doing half that stuff that he said he was, like, but there is a lot of music that he did do about him, the way he grew up, which I think is very real. But a lot of the other stuff, like you think he was actually like assaulting his mom and going to gay bash people and all the other things that he did, or said he did, you know, like, but it's funny how we went from that to the Eminem that doesn't like Trump. And he's like, if you like Trump, don't listen to my music. I don't like Trump either, but I just think it's funny that he went from like this guy that like talked about, assaulting his mom and killing his wife. And he's like, if you vote for Trump, don't listen to me. Clone.
Really weird thing to say as well. It's just like,
we'll get into Eminem when we talk about our cloning episode. Because there's differences in his facial structure.
He's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, for sure. They killed him. So I appreciate everybody. Obviously, you know, we want you to like, comment, subscribe, share it. Do what you need to do. We appreciate all the support. This may be the last episode that we do live. You're still going to get videos. Me and Aaron have, I just released our Psychic Vampire episode on video, which will be out way before this on audio. That was a lot of fun. It's just I actually really enjoy doing that episode because it's kind of so different than some of the other stuff we've done. I'm still sitting on a bunch of episodes. I have another episode, Dustin Nimoy is coming, which all the audio people will hear these by the time this comes out on audio. But we have a lot of stuff. I'm sitting on some stuff. I have another episode with Ryan Gable that will come out. So I'm excited to be a father. I'm also excited that once we sit down in these chairs again, like I'll still be talking to you, but once we sit down in these chairs again, and we can do something. I want to do something big and fun, something ridiculous and absurd. And we'll go live for it, but that'll probably be in July. But all the fans on the audio and even the video, you won't really notice the what's that word? The hiatus. You won't notice it as much.
I could have YouTube algorithms myself by then if Tom goes on an extended break.
Yeah, maybe you'll get your channel. I never understand why we're being censored for sure on YouTube. Like even your channel, you have over 2,000 people, but it sits there, and it's like it's. I don't understand why little episodes are not being pushed out. And you've had a lot of great guests on your show. So everyone, if you see this on YouTube, you listen to audio, and you just want to do us a favor, obviously subscribe to Strange Brew Podcast and Class Horrorcast on YouTube. That's why I really push Aaron to use Rumble. I appreciate everybody. I'm very excited. She's due from what time of recording this. She's due in 2 days. So like it's going to be, I'm very excited. But like, this is going to change my life. Things are going to shift in a different direction. We might have to pick, like, it might be recording on Sunday morning. So everyone that watches this live, it might be like a Sunday morning thing where we recur and do like everything on a Sunday morning and another day. And then you guys can catch more of the live stuff then, but it's going to be a big change, and I'm very excited, but yeah, it's wild. So yeah, support Aaron's show, support my show. All the support would be like very appreciative. Like, commenting, share, tuning in, even commenting on the episodes that were not live that you'll end up watching. Make sure you like, comment on the main page. Like, do all this. There's really help. I don't think people understand, like, giving a 5-star rate and review on Apple boosts up your stuff. Like, no, people are like, oh, I like it, I listen all the time. But I'm like, doing those small little things for free do help out way more than you think.
Yep. Same with Spotify, same with YouTube, same with all them places. It's like,
yes. It helps the algorithm.
It's weird, man. And I feel like people have to kind of do that to help break through whatever potential, like, because sometimes, like, you mentioned YouTube there, like, and I'm like, I feel like I've been nerfed on YouTube to a degree.
Yeah, it's really weird because you have tons of good guests, and we've done hilarious episodes.
I was on like 2.2K subscribers, and then in the last year, like, I've only went up like 300-400 subscribers in a year, and I'm like, it's a bit weird.
Same with us. We get and for other people out there, like, I can't monetize on YouTube because we're labeled as controversial and dangerous. Literally, Spotify said this stuff to us. So that's why your support does mean more than you think, because they do censor content. Like, I can't make money off of YouTube even at this point, even though I have enough followers too, and we built up enough content. There's enough people seeing it. And then once you're monetized, they push your stuff out there actually more. And I can't do that. So this is why, even on the audio aspect of things, I could optimize my ads, and you could hear an ad every 15 minutes. And then I did it for like a week, and I listened back to our episodes. I was like, this is too often. So I only put ads in the beginning and the end, and I'm making less money because of that. So like, I don't make that much money off the show. That's never the point of this, but obviously is a dream to want to live off this stuff. And people that hear this, those little things means more than you think. Okay. For $2 a day, you can make my life better. Come on, help me. Help.
Help me. Please. I'm at the bottom of a well. Help.
Help me, fireman.
Buy my merch. It'll get me out as well. Please help.
We have a lot of new merch on the site too. That actually, like that, we don't make much money off that, but repping the shirts, repping stuff like this. I love this shirt of like, this is such a, this is a design that I created, and then I used obviously AI to make it better. Because I'm like, this could be way better. So, with the advent of that stuff, it helps us create things that normally we wouldn't be able to. But we have a bunch of fun new merch on the site. It's awesome. So yeah, everybody support, like, comment. If you watch this after, I see people like, hundreds of people watching on YouTube. Click that like button, share it, all that stuff. Rate and review. There's more and more people commenting on Spotify. It's funny now because we're releasing, if people don't notice on Spotify, we're releasing videos slowly. If you go to the beginning of the show, you'll see that there's a big handful of episodes that I'm now putting the video on Spotify, and I released our Rottenberg, the Rottenberg Cannibal. I was like, just so people know that there's some episodes that have video too, and it's just funny how it breaks down, and it's just like, Billy's awesome, Aaron's pipe, because your pipe burst. It's like, and how you could click on like the different sections of like what we're talking about is actually
yeah. Oh wait, I saw.
Yeah, it's Aaron's channel again, and it's ARAN. He's Aaron.
Yeah, I'm
Arian.
aware after the
Class
free.
Horror Cast, everybody out there. Class Horror Cast. And then you'll see even my episode stuff pop up, and you'll see his channel. But yeah, that's for anyone out there. We have 2 shows. Aaron has a bunch of cool different guests that work in the movie industry on his show, but then me and him mostly do the deep dives. So we just did that hilarious episode about Nightmare on Elm Street.
And you know what's hilarious? They do way better. Our episodes do way better on YouTube than they do on audio. And then when I release the interviews with certain people on YouTube, they do terrible. And then on audio, they do really well.
It's so weird. I don't understand the algorithm. I don't understand like why it shifts that way. You know, because we've done some funny, like the Friday the 13th has done really well. Like there's episodes out there like people really enjoy, and we have some more stuff coming. That even on the audio side, I'm going to post one from Aaron's show once he's released it that you guys will probably really enjoy to point you in that direction. Obviously, I always forget. Go check out my new album, Rebel, The Raptilian, on all music platforms. It would be much appreciated. I've been doing music way longer than I've been doing podcasting. Music has always been my first love. So go check out my music, The Raptilian, on all music platforms. And everybody stay strange out there. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you soon. You'll see us soon, but we won't see you, I guess.
We'll never see you again.
No, I'm not. No, Aaron's all concerned. He's sad that I'm going to never come back, but that's not going to happen. I can't do it.
He's never going to come back. So
So make sure you
subscribe
like us,
now.
subscribe.
Donate all your money and give him a reason to come back.
Yes, do it. Yes, I
Help,
love you
I'm
guys.
back in the well.
Thank you for joining, everybody. We love you.